All right. All right. Sorted. Let's just check to be sure. Let me just use the device to check we're good. On YouTube. Thanks for staying tuned. So I said I was going to read some of the comments. I read one earlier. Someone says, back to my post to be on TikTok, active. I don't know where I write. I don't know what you mean by what you wrote. First John says desperation at its peak. I mean, that's what I'll call it as well. But apparently, Ola was desperate. Let us listen to one of the chieftains of I want to find you the name of the party. Akim Baba Ahmed. All right. What he had to say before this whole, news about Obi defecting all over again. There was something I was going to say before this. I just remembered now. Please let me quickly tell you. Let me read this to you. Okay, I think YouTube is back on now. So YouTube guys, sorry about that. Was technical issues, but we're good now. Thank you very much for coming back in. All right. So here's the thing about people's the three major candidates and their political journey since 1999. So Peter Obi in the early 2000s was in ABGA, was governor of Anambra State. Then he moved to PDP. Then from PDP to Labour Party. From Labour Party to ADC. From ADC to NDC. And I was saying earlier when the YouTube stuff went off that I wonder what he's going to say about the folks in ADC now. Because remember, he called them structure of criminality while he was in LP. When he got to ADC, he said they were being persecuted by the government. That just like Jesus, was spending time with, prostitutes and tax collectors, he's also with them. And by the way, they're even being persecuted by the government. Now that he has left ADC, don't be surprised if you start hearing that those people are now structure of criminality all over again, because now opportunism no go. Anyway, he has moved from ABGA to PDP to Labour Party to ADC, and now ADC there. So I think it means something. Atiku Abubakar has gone from PDP to AC, back to PDP, then to APC, back to PDP, and now in ADC. Ashwaju has been, that's Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has been in AD in 1999, was in AD, then AC by 2006, then ACN in 2010, and APC in 2013. Now, there's something very different from what Ashwaju did and what either of the others did. He didn't change parties. It was an AD, was one state. What structure he had became AC. Because of the 6 states of the Southwest in 2003, only Lagos had an AD governor. All the 6 states had AD governors in 1999. By 2003, we lost 5 states, had only one. That one state became AC. AD eventually just went down the drain, sadly. Became AC. AC now upgraded itself to ACN because it was trying to go national, right? Thank you, metamorphosis, that's the word, right? Became ACN. So if you hear the word, the party became, it's not the man moved from one party to another. The AD became AC in Lagos, AC became ACN, ACN worked with CPC to create APC. So you see evolution, right? You don't see a person just jumping from one place to another because they cannot bear to compete with folks in that place as far as having primaries is concerned. Like you got to give them the ticket. If you can't give them the ticket, they're going to jump all over the place. And here's the crazy part: they are incapable. I was going to say they will not do it, but interesting. I think, and this is me being very, very generous. I think Peter Obi is incapable of creating a political organization because you have been capable to create a party, That's what Kwankwansia is now. That's what NMPP, that's what it was, or what it is. Although now he's moving, but it has his movement, but at least he created a party at some point. That's what Tinubu did. He was a governor, then they formed a party. And then they played the long game. You keep jumping, anyway, we're going to get, he keeps jumping from one party to another. At least if you look at Atiku Abubakar, as bad as he bad, PDP is like a constant refrain. He will leave, you come back. He will leave, he will come back. You know, like he left to join AC in 2006, he returned in 2009 to PDP. Then he left to join APC, then returned again in 2017. Then he has now left to join ADC. But the most unstable, constantly changing parties and platforms is Peter Obi. And it's quite crazy that he would do this considering the things that he has said in the past. I'm going to listen to some of those things today. First, we begin with an interview with Akim Baba Ahmed on Politics Today on Channels TV and what he had to say about Peter Obi's chances. Take a listen, please.
Experience and what Peter Obi needs to understand. One of the reasons I think Peter Obi is saying, hey, listen, look at me. This is Peter Obi. I'm not here for number two. I'm not here for convention. I'm here to fly the flag. And he's getting people who are saying to him, initially in whispers and politely, and now they're saying to him, listen, join the queue. You're not the only one with ambition here. Look around you in this room. There are one or two people who have been here from day one, and they're sitting there waiting. And you're walking here and saying, Peter Obi doesn't do conventions, or he just goes there to be anointed. So, ADC will bleed after its convention because almost certainly Vice President Atiku will get the ticket.
And when he does?
And when he does, some people will walk out. Because
that's my crumble.
It would be severely damaged. Because they would need, we're talking about a few more months to an election. How much damage control can you do against a party that already it's got all this money, all these politicians, a lot of, and maybe some sensitive state institutions would also be.
Give me a moment, Dr. Baba Ahmed, because I need to go on a break. But when we come back, there are also fundamental questions. And we'll be getting the northern perspectives through the election of 2027, especially if you critically analyze the Bola Tinubu government in their...
See, the assumption that Atiku will just roll over and hand you the ticket of ATC is very childish. And by the way, I think at this point I should begin to charge. You know, I said it was like last month or 2 months ago. I said it as the day he joined ADC. I said, man will move. I give him max 4 months. I said it this year that in 4 months' time, I think I said in January, 4 months' time, Peter Obi will move away from ADC. I remember when he joined the ADC, I said they would leave. In January, when I started moving Korokoro, I said this man is going to leave in 4 months' time. 9 years left. The point is, you can't tell, and you don't even have to be a prophet. You just have to observe the trends. There is no consistency. In other words, when you join parties, it's not to become a member of the party. It's to be handed the presidential ticket of that party. There's nothing like internal party, there's not like internal democracy, there's nothing like all of those things. Just give me, because your party is a vehicle I need to accomplish my own dream. In other words, all of you that are in that party before I got there and you have your things that you're trying to do, everybody had their own plans, so forget about what you want to do. I have a movement, I demand to be the president. Party primaries, forget about that. Just give him the ticket. If you cannot give him the ticket, he's out. We're going to go through the timeline of some of the things that Peter Obi has said in the past few years and how we got to where we are today. We begin with this statement that he made about the fact that it is not necessary for people to jump from one party to another. And I'm doing this because someone said, are you trying to demarcate him? Absolutely. Absolutely. There's nothing. Another thing, there is nothing. To be honest, if you still haven't seen this man for who he is, hopefully you're going to see from what we're about to play today. There's no consistency. For me, see, a person can change his mind. Like you can change your mind, right? You can decide, okay, I'm going this way, I want to change. But if you're going to be a leader, you can't be moving every day. See, you will think with tomorrow in mind, right? You may change your mind, but for the most part, what you want to do is change your methods, not change your platforms. If you're moving from one party, you don't really care about the people. People are hungry. People, nobody, they don't care about anybody that's hungry. Anyway, we'll listen to him, tell us what we should do, how we should do it, and what he is doing as a political figure. Take a listen to His Excellency Peter Gregory Obi.
People will say, oh, maybe you will leave Abga tomorrow. One people will say, oh, maybe you will leave Abga tomorrow. It's a subject. It's not politics. It's not about running from one place to the other. But when I see people jumping from here to here or doing this, no. Leadership is you have to be consistent. Know what you said yesterday, you feel it today. Abga is strong. Abga is doing well. And I assure you that he will continue to do well. I'm not one of those fanatics that runs around.
He said he's not one of those fanatics who run around. Like I said, politicians do what politicians do. What I don't like personally, right, is when you try to put other people down as though you are better than them, only for you to unravel and we discover that you are literally the same thing, if not worse. But that's not the end of it. We are going to learn a lot from His Excellency Peter Gregory Obi. Take a listen to one of his political associates, and then you listen to what he said back in the day. Take a listen, please.
Unless Peter Obi, my brother, returns to Africa, he will not achieve anything politically. He knows, because he took a vow that he will never leave Africa. That any day he leaves Africa, let his family die. Everybody in his family die. He said it now. But he still left Africa. Why did he make such a vow? He left Africa and joined PDP. He was vice president to Atiku. Now he's going for presidency. It will be a catastrophic case of that. It will not work. I'm the one telling you now.
And the reason is because of the vow.
Do you know what vow means? Should you are married? Are you married?
Leave my relationship status out of the
No, you should. You're asking my own. You don't want to ask
your
my
relationship status.
Are you asking me? I'm married. I say my wedding ring. Are you married?
It doesn't really matter.
It matters now because if you are married, you must have taken a vow, and you must maintain the vow you took.
In the year 2000, I said 2002, I said I will stay on, I will not leave. This time, I will not leave. We will die without them.
So he said he would die with Africa. I mean, I don't pray that he should die. I pray that he has long life and prosperity. Anyway, I would love for him to live very long, for a long time. But that's what he said back in the day, that he would die with the party. And when he began to move, he was questioned about it by none other than Dr. Ahmed Abati. And this was on Arise News. Please take a listen to what he had to say to the question about his porting from one party to another. Take a listen, please.
And your good self, you are one of those people who promised not to cross from one party to the other, but you did. This is a quote from you. I will never leave ABGA. I'll rather quit politics. PDP is a curse to the Southeast. And you ran on the platform of the PDP along with Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, who also at a point said,
like I said, I don't know about the other people, is that I want somebody to show me a tape where I made that comment. Every other person that's been quoted has been shown on tape. Mine was something that was
Obi.
In the year 2000, like I said, 2002, I said I will stay on, I will not leave. Get that. No matter I will not leave, they will die without me.
So he demanded that the tape be played where he actually made that vow, and of course that's the tape where he talked about it. But there's another interview where he talked about why he moved. So firstly, also play me that tape where I said it. Now we've played the tape, have we? Then he went to something else. Take a listen to this, and this is where he talked about the fact that it doesn't stay where there's problem. How do you lead when you can't stand the heat and you want to be in the kitchen? You want to be the leader of a country. You cannot stand the heat in a party, a political party of how many 100 or 1,000 people. You want to lead a country of 200 and something million people, but you cannot stay. Anyway, take a listen to him. Let him say it so that you hear him. You hear it from the horse's mouth. Take a listen, please.
Truth is that every party I've left, I've been pushed to leave. This morning, somebody asked me a question about something. I said, I don't stay where there's a problem. I've never knowingly, whether it's in private or in public, whatever with people, I don't stay. I would rather be the loser and be called a coward and go out of it in peace than stay where there's quarrel. So if people tomorrow say, we don't want you here, I'll move on.
Do I think you should stay where there's problem or quarrel? Maybe not. Now here's the thing. Do I think you should stay where there's problem or quarrel? Maybe not. But at least if you're going to move, create a structure that your followers will be able to you can't be a nomad and be a presidential material. Forget candidate. You cannot be the president of a country if you yourself don't even have you don't have any base. You are moving around like a nomad, just moving. You are here, you're there. Everybody who dropped their whatever in LP, insulted LP and moved to ADC, what happens to them now? Because you're a leader, you're supposed to be leading people. So if you had left and created a party, at least they'll be in that party. Is that not what Shore did? He didn't have to leave any party anyway, but he created a party, and yes, he's the presidential candidate of that party. He's the presidential candidate of the party. Nobody will even go and meet him to say, Mofe contest is there. AAC, that's his party. Why did Peter Obi not create a party? He has had 4 years, since 2022. So let's even assume 2023 election happened, so he has only 3 years. So in the last 3 years, how come no party ever came up? Someone mentioned Aisha Yesufu. She wants to become a senator or she's a senator in the ambassador rep. She has to represent Abuja. She's on ADC. She has to leave now because she's obedient. GRV has been campaigning for ADC. He too has to move. You see, that's something about being a leader. Many people are connected to your decision. And again, I'm not saying that every leader will be a perfect leader. Once you do something, if you make any mistakes as a leader, let's burn you at the stake. That's not the point, though. Nobody, even Tinubu will have made certain mistakes and then find a way to. But you see, what you notice is consistency. It's not perfection; it's consistency. This man vacillates more than vacillator. here. So as you are moving, everybody will follow you to this place. As soon as they are settling down, you don't move again. If they move, you still move again. What will now happen to, forget your ambition for a second as a leader, what happens to everybody jumping around with you? You see, some people went on social media the other day, they said, oh, it doesn't really matter, all I have is a voter's card, I don't belong to any party. That's okay for you. How about the people who actually belong to the party because of him? Why did he not float a political party? At least that way, those people will find home. There will be stability, and then their job will be to campaign for that party, even if you call it Obidients, whatever I call it. Why not have that rather than just be jumping over from one place to another? Meanwhile, these ones now, when would they begin? I know one guy. Flyer, what happens to those ones? That's the issue. Stay with me. We're going to be listening to him. I'm just asking questions. Okay. Someone says I pity GRV Sha. I pity him as well. Because it's not even about winning Lagos election. He cannot win. But it's not even about that anymore. And I say cannot win because I don't want him to win. Okay. And I'm not against him as a person, but it's not governor material. Yeah. You can't, I mean, maybe in the future, but right now, no. But that's not even the problem now. The problem is not even whether it will win or not, is which party Loma and Loba is saying. Because I can assure you, Peter Obi is going to attack the ATC people very soon. He has started, by the way. I'll play that later. All right, where were we? So he said that if there's any problem anywhere, it don't port with that. How do you lead a group of people if you move at the first sign of trouble? That's the question. If I cannot see you manage a party in crisis, is it Nigeria where you have Boko Haram one place, you have ISWAP, you have IPOB, you have people just causing trouble over the place? Apart from financial, economic issue, you have security challenges, you have all kind of challenges that we are surrounded by problems. Anonymously, you have to be anonymously smart too. I know on your own you cannot be wise, so be anonymously wise. Okay, at least you are incapable of being wise on your own, so use anonymity to be wise. Okay, God bless you. So here's the thing: how can you be surrounded by? You're not the one that caused the problem. We are the president. So if they jump from party to party, say problem sir, you don't jump. What makes me think you'll be able to handle Nigeria? And Nigeria is a very, very difficult country to govern. Forget people saying that, and I say it often. When people say things like Nigeria, government is not rocket science. People that talk like that don't know jack. Lead the local government. In fact, lead your family first. This country is complex. And there is trouble. See, there are people right now that their job in life is to make sure things are difficult for Tinubu. Guess what? He cannot talk about it, even if he knows about it. He can't come out and say, I've been trying. Is this person that tried this thing? And that, you know how people, and Peter Obi talks like that. And I'm wondering, how do you lead like this? Oh, is this people? They've started bombing places down. No, I don't know what. What are we now going to do? We'll just go and sell the country at this rate. Anyway, so he said, anyway, that's what he said, okay? And now he talked about the fact that it's not even about him, it's the government's fault. But like I said, it's always outsourcing responsibility. It's someone else's fault. It can never be his fault. But maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong. Take a listen, please.
Obviously, the ABC has the legal right to hold its events at those places. Why do you think it is being denied access to?
You know that very well, Charles.
Well, I don't. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, well, obviously, the government. The government doesn't want other parties to exist. they're not playing by the rules.
But what are the reasons those venues
Well,
are giving?
I don't know, just like you.
Right.
I don't know, but I believe that unless the party in power decides to support our institutions to be able to play their part, we'll be having such problems.
The ABC also.
I've not seen a more uninspiring person, but we'll listen to him like that. This was at the ADC event that was held a while back in Abuja. Take a listen, please. This is from Arise News. Take a listen, please.
Go and ask anybody. Nobody will ever tell you that people.
I hate that phrase. Go and ask anybody. Go and verify. Ask anybody. Go and do your research. People that talk like that are the most ignorant. In my own opinion and my experience, they don't know jack. Once you go and ask anybody, go and verify. Ask anybody. Go and do your research. Nah lie. Nah lie. Nah lie. Anyway, this was what we were talking about. Primaries in ADC. Primaries. Listen to what he said at the time. Take a listen, please.
Transnational primary. Go and ask anybody. Nobody will ever tell you that Peter Obi gave money to vote for him.
What we saw in 2022 was that you said that the PDP primaries was dollarized, and then of course you jumped seats. It was a money primary. What if this one becomes dollarized?
It will not be because it's direct primary.
What if
it will never be? I can tell you, we are sure. We are sure, we are determined that it would never be. That we are a new set of people ready to sacrifice.
I am asking that if Atiku Abubakar becomes a presidential candidate here, what would happen?
Nobody will be through. Everybody will emerge through a transparent primary.
All right.
I assure you of that primary. We want to build a new Nigeria. That Nigeria is a Nigerian that will be built on transparent primaries and good election, because we're going to rebuild the country. We want to start doing things properly. Can't you see our country collapsing today? You know what it means that we moved from number 8 in terrorism list in the past 3 years to number 4. And you're still talking about transnational primary. We need to start fixing it. We need to fix our country. People are dying. Mothers can't go to hospital. Children can't go to hospital. Children are out of school. Nobody is secure. Even you now, you can't travel to a village. And you're talking about transactional politics again. We want to keep transactional politics and make Nigeria work. We want to build a country where a child of nobody can be somebody without knowing anybody.
Right.
We want people to get jobs. Our children are all over the place looking for a job. They can't find food to eat.
So
and you're talking about
yes,
no.
wishing you well, sir. I'm hoping that you get the ticket. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, the idea you get from that is that. All right, that was people. Yeah, the idea you get from that is that it go day involved in the primary bar, and that no matter what happens, it's going to work out fine. Okay, handicap. The man, I knew was going to move. And I'm glad it did not disappoint me. Give me a second. I want to change the audio source for this other device so that we can enjoy the session. Mumbo. Okay. We still have a few more things to listen to. Please stay with me, and we're gonna have a great time. Just listen to Peter before we even get to the topic of today. All right. Okay. I think this should work. So yeah, that was Peter Obi talking about the fact that they're going to have primaries and they would, ask anybody. We're going to move away from that one to what he said about the fact that the federal government is the one disturbing them. Then I'll now play you what he said about the fact that he would change political parties as many times as possible. He even mentioned 20 times. Good evening, Ms. Joan. Thank you for joining us. All right, take a listen to Peter Obi talking about the federal government.
If you don't know today, the federal government of Nigeria does not want me, Peter Obi, to be a candidate of any party, but I'll be candidate.
What exactly is so special about Peter Obi that would make the federal government not want him to be a candidate of a party? You are jumping from one party to another. You say they don't want to be a candidate. Why don't you stay in one place? Have the primaries. Let me tell you what would have been honorable, right? Stay there. Whoever wins in that party. I mean, it could be you, they support you. If it's someone else, you support them. That's what you would expect. As a matter of fact, that's what former Governor Rotimi Amechi, that's what he said. Like, you know what? Do this primary elections. Whoever wins. Now, think about it, and this may sound very counterintuitive, but if Peter Obi had lost the primaries and stayed in the party, he supported whoever says that won, he would have created a platform that nobody will be able to touch. Now, what I just said right now is difficult to even understand if you really think about it, but that's exactly what Tinubu did. He didn't even bother having primary. He just let them run. He let Ribadu run as presidential candidate of his party that he formed, though. He let Atiku Abubakar run on ACN. He formed that party. When it was time for CPC, ACN and Buhari's Conscience Party, a local party, why not? CPC. When it was time for ACN and CPC to come together, he didn't say he wanted to become president. What do you think will make a person just defer his own ambition or his own gratification till much later? By the time he was ready, people came around and said, forget the fact that people are shouting your name in some corners. I'm talking about people that can't make it work. What I said right now, and I've said it before, there are two ways, apart from something divine, there are two ways you can become president in this country. There's a third one, but that one is out of the control of human beings. But two, in control of humanity, one is in the hand of the divine. Those two ways. Number one, you have somebody who is fronting for you, who is like your godfather or like your mentor. Someone who says, come, you will do this. That's what happened to Goodluck Jonathan. Nobody was expecting him to become the vice president, let alone president of Nigeria. He was handpicked. Okay? It wasn't because he was bright or great. And I'm not saying he's not bright. I'm not saying he's not great. I'm just saying that at that moment, that was not why he became that. It was because somebody picked him. If they pick you, that's okay. The second, and if they pick you, nobody really needs to know you. It's just somebody just believes in you. That's all it takes. Whatever, maybe they like your face, they like your name, they believe in you. Somehow they put you out there and say you're good. In fact, in some cases, they will be the ones who even spend their money. They might have what they want at the end of the day, so that's between you and them. But for the most part, it's not because of your greatness. That's why when what happened in Rivers State happened, I was just laughing. People were insulting Wike. I was like, do you know what it takes for Wike? Do you know what it took him for the present governor? What's the name of this gentleman? Simnalai, our governor of Rivers State. You can't tell Wike to just let it go. They created a platform. He ran on their platform. I mean, I'm not saying it's good, or I'm not saying it's bad. It's just what it is. So someone else is pushing you or putting you out there. That's one. Yes, Simla Ifubara. Thank you. That's the governor of Rivers State. Whatever issues they now had, you cannot get there and say, I have an idea. Whatever idea you want to have it before they use their platform. Okay, may God give us wisdom. And I'm not saying it's easy, but you're using the platform, they want something. The second one is to play the long game, which is what Tinubu did. As a matter of fact, the first example I gave is what happened to Obasanjo in 1999. He was not planning to become president of Nigeria in 1999. They picked him. Even President Olusegun Obasanjo, he was picked. It wasn't like, oh, he had this fantastic plan. He just came out of prison. Somebody has to be there. For the most part, in yellow shoju, someone will be there and say, you know what, this guy, this woman, this man, you two can do it. Or maybe you have said something like you want to do something. Yes, I'm going to make sure you make it up. Okay. The other one is the long game. Oh, Lebi Olara Omaya. But while you play the game, it might happen, it might take a while, but it will happen eventually. But there's a way they play it. And Tinubu has played that game and see how long it took. Not to become politically powerful, but to become president. On your way to the place you're going, you can become other things. E.g., Senator Olamilekan Yayi is going, by the grace of God, is going to become the governor of Ogun State next year. Okay. He was member House of Assembly in Lagos State 2003. Okay. Then I think he was there for 8 years. Then he went to Lagos. Then he went to, was it Lagos East or Lagos West? He was House of Assembly representative. Then he went to Senate Lagos West. Now he's in Senate Ogun West. Then he's going to become governor. Even if that's your goal, it might take a while, but and it could happen immediately. If you can't play, is Lagos West? Yes, it was. I think it was. Let me see if I can recollect. It was in the House of Assembly. It was on the Mosho. It was representing the Mosho to 2011. Then he went to House of Representatives for Lagos West. Then he went to Senate, Lagos West. Then now went to return to Senate, Ogun West. And now Ogun State Governor. The point is, let's say governorship in goal one. You will go through different things. But that long game, people have to be ready to play it. Unless, of course, you have somebody who is saying, you can do it, I'm going to push it. The third one is in the hands of God. God can just come and disrupt every analysis that we are saying and just say, you know what, this person is going to put it there. But there's no society that works, that lives on miracles. You live on principles. You live on systems. That one that's the intervention of God, I don't know. We don't know how it can happen to anybody. I said all of that to say that people who have nobody fronting, I'm putting them out there, and who don't want to wait and, play that long game, and are constantly comparing themselves with Tinubu, they are jokers. Tinubu has been playing these things for about 30 years. Yes, he was senator in 93. Yes, he was governor in 99. But that presidency, it's been on his mind for a while. But you have to build. You have to build. If you just do anything like that, they don't jump, they don't port to another party. They are the ones that will teach us about a new Nigeria is whatever they call it. I don't believe them one bit. Anyway, we listen to Peter Obi talk about, before we listen to Peter Obi, I want to listen to something that Governor Rotimi Amechi said. Take a listen to this, please. Before I read, someone says, even in the US, they have kingmakers. Of course. That's why I hear when Nigerians argue on social media, I say things like, why should last week, GAC, apparently, GAC in Lagos, that's Governor's Advisory Council, what's the word now? She nominated Lamakwe, Deputy Governor of Lagos, said, Ofime Hamzat. So why must you have GAC? Let us vote. All of us will vote. Because even if you go to Senate climbs, everybody will endorse, thank you. Everybody is supposed. How come I saying that they have endorsed him? Endorsement is endorsement. And endorsement happens everywhere, particularly this Senate climb that we're talking about, America. They endorse. From if you want to become president, for instance, there are some states you want to make sure you get endorsement of certain people in those states. It's how it works everywhere in the world. These people live in this utopia that never existed, will never exist. It just exists, just trying to exist somewhere in their minds, and it's a shame. So they say, oh, listen. Even if they want to vote, you cannot vote. You don't even. You're not a member of any political party. You're just rambling and insulting everybody on social media. You cannot even be there to vote if they want to do it. Number two, there's no system in this world where everybody just picks. You pick who they have picked for you. That's how it is everywhere you have the quote-unquote democracy. Maybe one of these days we should do like a study on the Aristotelian. Okay, I don't want to get too academic. Like Aristotle's perspective of democracy. I discovered that, to be honest, it was right. It's not even something that should be given to people, because most of is not everybody. That's not how things work. Anyway, I say all of that to say that if you don't have a group, a person that's pushing you, and you're not going to play the long game, the only other option is to spend time just waiting upon God. If he's wise or not wise, that's your business, but God can help you. But the truth of the matter is that everywhere in the world, all this sinner climb thing is rubbish. Everywhere in the world, you have kingmakers. You have people that see, people have interest. Have you ever asked, did you see the picture last week when Dangote followed Senator Yayi to go and collect expression of interest form? Did you see that picture? I don't know if you saw it. I just want to see if anybody saw the picture online in the comment section. Did you see the picture? I want to be sure I'm not the only person. Okay, so someone else also saw it. Exactly. You can get angry. You can, whatever you want. That thing, it doesn't have to say anything. Endorsements not where. Echo not baby. Endorsements there. And why? Listen, people who really have power, they have their own interest and they've got to secure it. Now say, oh, how do you now bring the people's interest? Now you represent the people. You know, I told you that we started late today. We'll be starting a little bit late on maybe Mondays and Wednesdays, because we started a bit late today. And that's because me too, I said I should go and learn from people who know more than me. So I went for one class. Now I'll go again next week. And someone was talking about we the people. So I looked at the person beside me. I said, why is he always talking about himself as the masses? So we're talking about power, okay? We're having a conversation about power. And I said that the people in power are the ones who determine what news you consume. In fact, they determine how you think. It was not like, well, we the people also have power. Which power do you have? You have power theoretically. But in practice, whatever power you think you have is the one they've told you that you have. If they remove it from you, you will not have it. Does that mean you don't have power? That's not the point. The point is, as long as you're thinking about we the people also have power, you don't have power. Because people really have power, don't sit and be shouting, we have power, we too have power. You too don't have any power. And I know this may sound very, funny, like people say, but we have power. So when you go to, we'll go back to today's topic. So when you go to vote, let's say you go to the polling unit, you are exercising your power, okay? You have candidates on the ballot, right? Which of the people you have on the ballot did you choose? You have power, B. Who did you choose? Before they got on the ballot, to not have. So once they get on the ballot, you are party jabo. I was talking to people who were interested in politics. I said, me, I don't know if I'm going to join a party, although they asking me to join one. But I just I said, if you're really serious, because we were having a conversation years ago, people were just shouting. I said, listen, just join a political party. go and register, join them at the ward level. When it's time to have their primaries, you'll be part of it. You'll be part of the decision makers. Maybe over time you also grow. Baba Olusi Leko was a member of, I saw a picture when he was a member of Action Group 1962. When I'm putting this video out, I'll put that picture there. He was a young man. Today, he's the head of GAC in Lagos. If it's power you want to, power has the language and it has its own way, it has its own system. May God give us understanding. I'm just saying that may God help all of us. May God help us to get into those places of power. Power is also, it depends on what we're saying. I was talking about what I did in this seminar I went for. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that wherever you are, just use your power, but don't assume that you have power because someone has told you that you have power. Your power has to be something that you're actually exercising. Okay, not just that you know that you have power. We people, we have power. Which power do you really have? Okay, and I'm not saying we don't have power. I'm just saying that as long as it's just on the lips, right, just shouting we have power, it doesn't really mean anything until it is exercised. That's what I mean. I'm not saying that you are powerless or anything like that. It's just that we have this motivational things that we say. We are the people, we are the power. I agree, but maybe we should exercise it. And yes, we can exercise it at the polls, but I'm saying that there are some people who exercise it before the polls, and I'm sure you get the point. Anyway, let us listen to a few more things.
Have you seen that person fighting on social media? It is between Atiku's people and Obi's people. And Obi's people are abusing me. We never reply. It's not because we don't know English or we can't reply. The reason why we don't reply is that we always want peace. The Obidients insist Obi or nothing. Do they have the numbers? That's the question. The Atiku people say Atiku or nothing. Do they have the numbers? There are things you say when you win, it becomes difficult to bring everybody together. So because we know we will win, we're not abusing everybody, so I can bring everybody together. So that question should not be asked to me because I'm not abusing anybody. I'm careful what I say. My team is under permanent instruction. Don't abuse anybody in ADC. Even Mr. President, not abuse president. Show the facts. When I came out here, what did I tell you? I say, compare me to P2B. We are governors at the same time. If he's a better governor, please choose him. Is that what I said? Yes, although the former vice president was not a governor, but he was once a vice president. Compare my role as governor, as minister, with the role he played as vice president. If he's a better person, please choose him. Right? Then I came to say, but I think I played more roles. I think I discharged more responsibilities. When you are sleeping, I'm running on this track, coming back to Lagos by 2 a.m. and you are sleeping. As minister, from Ibadan, to make all this was completed on time. I want to sit in my office and write memo. Or reading memo. I make sure that either once a month or twice a month, I'm on this track. We are building the same. I'm a practical man. I'm young. I'm on the street. I know what the problems are. I eat as a minister, as former governor. I eat in the same restaurant we eat. I don't go to all these big men restaurants because they don't give me the kind of food I ate when I was small. So this advice.
All right, let's not listen to the governor's campaign speech, but he said something about the fact that when it's time to have the primary elections in ADC, they should choose whoever they feel has done, better as governor or VP or whatever. And I think that's where Peter Obi began to have a problem. And I'll tell you, if you go back, if you remember where we started with Akim Baba Ahmed, we talked about the fact that Peter Obi is shopping for automatic ticket. As soon as they began to hear on my vote, on my primary, vote or primary. And then he said something very weird. He said that if he has to move 20 times, I didn't know he could say something like that, but maybe because I never thought it could get that bad. But he said it. And I want you to take a listen to His Excellency again, Governor Peter Gregory Obi.
If I have to move, well, I don't have a long time in politics, but if I have a long time, I have to do it 20 times. I'll do it exactly. I will not be part of, I cannot be talking about a change. I cannot be talking about something new. Why being process of the same thing? You cannot use the process of yesterday to build tomorrow. I've never been involved in any form of rigging of election at primary level, at the election itself, and after that. No, I've never been part of paying people in judiciary anywhere to give me judgment that I do not deserve. I've not been part of this. You can go as the last INEC chairman. I never met him for one day because he's a referee. I'm a player, and I expect the referee to come to the field and do his job very well. If he chooses to do it wrongly, so be it. But I cannot be preaching change and doing the same thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who support you would be re-inspired by what you just said. But you are, of course, now operating within the ADC. Yes. Can you realistically secure the ticket in a field that includes seasoned political heavyweights like Atiku Abubakar? And what happens if you don't? Would you be willing to step aside for a stronger coalition candidate in the interest of defeating the incumbent President Tinubu?
Well, let me tell you, Mr. Charles, we're a coalition. For me, what I believe that Nigeria requires now is a coalition of people who are willing to sacrifice everything. It's a coalition of competencies, coalition of capacities, coalition of people who are compassionate to tackle issues that Nigeria needs urgent attention today. That's what I see as that coalition. We're no longer going to be a coalition of people who are going to share democracy dividend or transnational coalition, because there's nothing to share any longer. Whatever we're sharing now, the country is finished. We need to now be a coalition of people who are going to sacrifice everything to build tomorrow. And if that is the case, it will be easy. It is done in several countries of the world where coalition came together and for somebody to be part, to lead it. Example is in Indonesia. When Joko Widodo was choosing to be a presidential candidate, he was not choosing by his party. He was choosing by a coalition of parties that came together and said, this is our candidate. And because of it, other smaller parties joined in that coalition because they believe he will do the work. Where we are now in Nigeria, it's time to hire qualified, competent person. Our recruitment process for 2027 must be different from what it used to be. Right. We must now get somebody who is committed to a future and a better Nigeria.
And do you see any person who is like that beyond yourself?
Well, like I said, we have a party now. I'm sure the party people will come together and decide. There might be somebody better.
Right.
There might not be. But whatever is the choice, it must be based on empirical, verifiable evidence that this person is better than Charles. So why should Charles be doing this program when we have a better person?
I said these people must have been re-inspired. Inspired by what exactly? By what? Because that doesn't sound to me like something inspiring. You notice they did not answer that question. Someone says he said a lot of things without actually saying anything. God bless you, Logic Vector. God bless you. What did he say? If someone else wins, what will you do? Go down. Because he's not expecting to compete. He's expecting to be granted the ticket. I don't know if he's going to get a ticket, but what we do know is that Peter Obi has now been welcomed into NDC. But before I talked about the fact that he has in fact, let me read that news. Give me a second. Let me read it. We talked about the fact that he has, let me just read it. If you're looking for a rolling stone that gathers no moss, is this man. This is what he says. Peter Obi says, fellow Nigerians, good morning. I woke up, by the way, this was yesterday, it was on Sunday, okay? He said, fellow Nigerians, good morning. I woke up this morning after my church service with a deeply reflective heart, and despite every constraint, I felt compelled to share these thoughts with you. Many people do not truly understand the silent pains some of us carry daily, the private struggles, emotional... Isha wrote all kinds of things, and most of it, as far as I'm concerned, gibberish. That's why he said, what did Charles mean by he would have inspired people? He started by talking about the fact that he carries a burden. What does he want you to do with that? In fact, he started by saying that he just woke up after his church service. I should read. I thought you must have read it too. So I don't like reading uninspiring stuff, but I'll read it since you want to hear. So he started by saying, fellow Nigerians, good morning. I woke up this morning after my church service with a deeply reflective heart, and despite every constraint, I felt compelled to share these thoughts with you. Many people do not truly understand the silent pains some of us carry daily, the private struggles, emotional burdens, and quiet battles we face while trying to survive and serve sincerely in difficult circumstances. We now live in an environment that has become increasingly toxic, where the very system that should protect and create opportunities for decent living often works against the people. A society where intimidation, insecurity, endless scrutiny, and discouragement have become normal. More painful is when some of those you associate with, believing you would find understanding and solidarity among them, become part of the pressure you face. Some will publicly identify with you, privately distance themselves, or join in unfair criticism. On top, say you won't leave party. You start by telling us, say you go church, because all of us will be, church take back your country. After telling you about the fact that you say you don't go church, you can't tell us waiting they happen to you. It's not about you. It's not about your issues. Like nobody, listen, leadership is crazy. There's nothing fun about it. I mean, it's cool at a particular level, but it's crazy. You're the leader. You want to make a. They are doing something to me. I am giving the people that you expect to have compassion. They don't have compassion. The country is. Who cares from you? The thing is that, let's say the people are experiencing that. That's why they're looking up to you for direction, not so that you can now join them in crying about what is happening. Anyway, let's just keep reading. It says here that we live in a society where humility is mistaken for weakness. Says, you want me to read this in Abi? Let me just tell you that this is the hardest thing I'm doing today, but I'll read it. We live in a society where humility is mistaken for weakness, respect is seen as lack of courage, and compassion is treated as foolishness. A system where treating people equally is questioned simply because you refuse to worship status, tribe, class, or power. Personally, I have never looked down on anyone except to uplift them. I have never used privileged position or resources to oppress others, intimidate the weak, or make people feel small. To me, leadership has always been about sacrifice, service, and helping others rise. Let me state clearly, my decision to leave the ADC How did we go from that to let me state clearly? If you are following this man, please pray to God that he should reveal himself to you because you need it. Let me state clearly. By the way, please don't be annoyed. The only way I can read this thing is to stop and say something because the thing. Let me state clearly. My decision to leave the ADC is not because a highly respected chairman, Senator David Mark, respected leaders did anything personally wrong to me. I will continue to respect them. However, the same Nigerian state and its agents that created unnecessary crisis and hostility within the Labour Party that forced me to leave now appear to be finding their way into the ADC with endless court cases, internal battles, suspicion and division, instead of focusing on deeper national problems and playing politics built more on control and exclusion than on service and nation building. Even within spaces where one labors sincerely, one is sometimes treated like an outsider in one's own home. You and your team become easy targets for every failure, frustration, or misunderstanding, as though honest contribution has become a favor being tolerated rather than appreciated. Guys, I'm sorry. I'll send you the link, you read it yourself, because this is just depressing. But let me just try. And when you choose to leave, so that those you are leaving can have peace, and you step out into the cold, you are still maligned and your character is questioned. Despite all your efforts to continue working for a better Nigeria and engaging people with sincerity and goodwill, those who do not wish you well continue to attack your character and question your intentions. There are moments I ask God in prayer, why is doing the right thing often misconstrued as wrongdoing in our country? Why is integrity not valued? Why is the prudent management of resources, especially when invested in critical areas like education and healthcare, wrongly labeled as stinginess? Why are humility and obedience to the rule of law often taken to be weakness rather than discipline? Let me assure all that I am not desperate to. This guy is funny. Oh boy. Let me laugh to keep from crying. Let me assure all that I am not desperate to be president. What other things do desperate people do? Oh God. Let me drink water. We'll drink water, drop cup. Lamba. Let me assure all that I am not desperate to be president, vice president, or senate president. I am desperate to see a society that can console a mother whose child has been kidnapped or killed while going to school or work. I'm desperate to see Nigeria where people will not live in IDP camps but in their homes. I am desperate for a country where Nigerian citizens do not go to bed hungry, not knowing where their next meal will come from. Yet, despite everything, I remain resolute. I firmly believe that Nigeria can still become a country with competent leadership based on justice, compassion, and equal opportunity for all. A new Nigeria is possible. B.O. I need to clap for myself, please. That was torture. I celebrate myself. That was torture. Boy, have I ever read anything more uninspiring in my life? Like, there's nothing to even hold on to. Nothing inspiring, nothing visionary, nothing, just depressing. See what they've done to me, see what they're doing to me. I'm going to leave the party, but it's not because I don't respect people, but see what they're doing, see what they have done. But I'm not desperate, but I'm desperate. I'm not really desperate for president, but I'm desperate to see IDP close down. Me, I'm just happy. Someone says never finish. It better finish. Oh, it has finished. It has signed. A new Nigeria is possible. Or to sign. Guys, I need to take a second to thank. Let me use the opportunity to thank all my all my fans. I feel like I accomplished something great just reading that thing because it's depressing. And I'll tell you, and I'm not even joking. You see, when people make decisions, right? You want to. Again, you can move from party to party, even though it's. Peter Obi should not be changing parties. 6 million votes. I said it last election. I said, regardless of what happened, he's a force now. I'm talking 2023. This man, he's a force. Like, you don't have to like him. 6 million is not 6,000 though. Regardless of why people voted, people were angry across Nigeria, NSAS, all those things. Oh, in the South, they forced people. He got 90% in some states. He got 87 point something percent overall, aggregate score across the southeastern region. He did this, he did that. Regardless, 6 million is a lot. It's a statement, and it's not going to happen again. General Buhari had 12 million votes. It was the MPP. Eventually created a structure to keep that thing going. And even then, even though he had 12 million, he never really became president until there was collaboration with Asiwaju. And then, because numbers alone don't count. Numbers mean something, but they don't work alone. You need spread. Okay, you need spread across Nigeria. So if you don't have that spread, even if you have, Peter Obi never did what Buhari got 12 million. Peter got 6. 6 is a lot, but 12 is a lot more than 6. You know that 12 million is a lot. But even with 12 million, first time, second time, third time, he did not become president. Buhari had to do it 4 times. That's somebody who is even in one party. Yes, moved from AMPP and then they created their own party, CPC, and they just kept pushing and pushing. In that same place, it didn't come. You are jumping from one place to another. I think having 6 million shows that people actually believe in you. Although I don't like the fact that they believe in you, because I don't see anything to believe in. And I apologize if you think that is, insulting. But truth of the matter is that there's nothing inspiring. You just read this. This is depressing. I felt, even me, I felt virtue went out of me. Like Jesus said, virtue just. But we have done it. So the point is, at least start a party. I will still come against you because it's politics. We'll oppose you because we don't want you to become president. But at least, you know how you do sports, right? You don't want your opponent to win. But after winning, it doesn't mean you're going to disrespect your opponent. You get the point? So you have that sportsmanship. That's what politics is really about. You should win, but if you don't win, even the person who wins doesn't have the winner takes all mentality. You are still like, okay, good run. Like, you did well. I won, but I respect you for what you've done. And I respect Peter Obi for what happened last election. He did well. 6 million is not small. But what's the structure that's going to make that work again? Obedient movement. We're going to discuss that tonight. Zikism and obedient movement. That's our topic for today. You see how the two are very linked. Anyway, so he gave us this very long. I don't even understand who writes. I want to just advise people in politics in Nigeria, please employ, I don't know whether it's PR people or scriptwriter or whatever, please employ people that can help you with these things. There is no way the first part of this speech has anything to do with I am leaving the party. There is no connection. There is no congruence. It's just everywhere is. You start with pity me. I'm a victim of this. I'm a victim of that. We are victims, minus me, Sharon. So he's saying that they are victims. So pity him. He's a victim. They are victims. He's leaving the party. He's a victim of Nigeria. He's not. He usually prays to God and asks, what is wrong with doing the right thing in this country? Why is doing the right thing often misconstrued as wrongdoing in our country? Why is integrity not valued? Why is the prudent management? What kind of rubbish is this? Chibuzo says, Busuyi, I will pay you 30 million to join NDC. I don't know you, but respectfully, to hell with you and your money. Rather. You have 30 million naira. Listen, it's not about money. It's about money. I could join, but not because of it. But the point is, why would I join NDC? Okay, if I ask you right now, what's the ideology of NDC? And to be honest, most Nigerian political parties don't like ideology. You can move from one place to another. They don't need orientation. These are the same thing. But to join the NDC, the only reason I can even begin to speak favorably by NDC is if they adopt President Tinubu as the presidential candidate. You will even need to pay me. I'll be telling you how great, at least what they are doing, that thing they are doing, I'll tell you how great it is. But 30 million, you get 30 kobo for account. You are a joker. You are a joker. So no, forget about your money, Sha. I mean, yeah, I can be a bit harsh with that. I think it was a bit harsh. You said you should go to hell with your money, but don't go to hell. But I don't need your money. Pocket it. It's not easy to help your people back home. May God bless you and your family. In Jesus' name we pray. You will not go to hell in Jesus' name. Say amen. All right. Having dealt with the person that was giving better go and hide the money to the thing you are selling. You will need it. Anyway, let's go back to, because you need that money is good to be good for your business. Let's go back to NDC. So Peter Obi has told us why he's moving, and it's quite interesting. And this is what happened last night. Please take a listen.
The tutelage of the leader of this party, and we don't do anything until it is commanded. First and foremost, we want to present to Your Excellency, distinguished Senator Rabiu Kwakwansu. On the other hand, ably supported by our leader, we present to the in-law that have already been accepted the membership card of the NDC. As a symbol of your entry, this is what we decorate you with. It's also decorate the reigning principality the tutelage of the leader of this party.
So that was NDC welcoming Dr. Rabiu Kwakwansu and Peter Obi. when what happened 2 weeks ago happened in ATC with the whole court, injunctions and stuff, the person I felt for the most was Rabi Kwakwanso, because he literally just joined ATC. I'm happy for him that he has moved to NDC. I have no problem with him at all. Okay, why? Because if people like this run, they will play politics of they'll play politics as politics, right? They'll just play. They'll play, put their best. If they win, they win. If they lose, you respect what they've done. Not president of shouting, "Church, take back your country," destroying, just being divisive, and then turning around to call people tribal. It's just unnecessary. Anyway, so that was how he was welcomed into the party, and then he gave a speech that I think you should listen to, with folks in NDC surrounding him. Take a listen to Peter Obi.
Out of poverty, because we want to build a country where a child of nobody can be somebody without knowing anybody.
Jesus Christ, this thing is sorry, if I was a child of nobody can become somebody without knowing anybody, become nobody and become anybody. Anyway, Ẹkáàbọ, come on, mo fẹ́ po ma go lẹ́nu ẹgbọ́ tiẹ̀.
Out of poverty, because we want to build a country where a child of nobody can be somebody without knowing anybody. That is what we want to do. But we are using this occasion to plead to the government of today. You know that I contested election in a different party. But the government left that place to NDC.
Let him confront a bit.
Where the leader have already told us,
let him confront. Yes.
We are pleading with them. For the sake of democracy, please, don't come here. So we can face the job of building a new Nigeria that is possible. Yes. So we can change the job of caring where our country is deteriorating today. Just yesterday, I saw a third world developing country, Bangladesh, order for the highest order of plane. 14 new planes at $3.7 billion. Our country has no national currency. So we want to start building. Please, let there be no litigation. Party members, please don't go to court. We are not lawyers. Those of us who are lawyers want to be good practitioners. What we want is party. We will lock doors. We'll be warmly welcome. Things will work well for this party.
Sorry, there's some parts to play that there, but there's another clip that I think is a bit clearer. Take a listen, please.
They put up crisis upon crisis, which led to litigations and everything in our party that made us to abandon those parties and move to join another party, while thinking that our situation will abate. But what we saw is that they carried the same problem to where we went to, creating several unresolved litigations and everything And today, we've left that place to NDC, where the leader have already told us no litigation. We are pleading with them. For sake of democracy, please, don't come here. We are pleading with you. We want to have peace. We want to build the party. We don't want, please, we don't want cases. We are pleading with the judiciary. Please end cases in party so we can face the job of building a new Nigeria that is possible. So we can change the job of caring where our country is deteriorating today. Just yesterday, I saw a third world developing country, Bangladesh, order for the highest order of plane, 14 new planes at $3.7 billion. Our country has no national currency. So we want to start building. Please, let there be no litigation. Party members, please don't go to court. We want to build a party. We are not lawyers. Those of us who are lawyers want it to be good practitioners. What we want is a party. We will lock doors. We've been warmly welcomed. Things will work well for this party.
Sorry, I'm laughing because someone in the comment section says, "Are you sure Peter Obi is not from Bangladesh?" I think that person is Wimot. It says, "Are you sure Obi is not a citizen of Bangladesh?" And first one says, "It will never disappoint Bangladesh, China." Yes, always. I don't know what is it with. Maybe it's container. It's China, Bangladesh, Indonesia. Sha has to mention something from the Far East. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Someone says, "Honorable says, honestly, I'm tired of this man. He has nothing to offer himself, let alone the country." Sinchin says, "Probably he's from Bangladesh because his ethnicity claimed to have developed the Garden of Eden, Europa, and so on." You are joining a party in May 2026. Elections are less than 1 year. You are saying you are joining the party to build the party. You have come to build. As per above the build, no, you have come to look for a platform that you can easily use. And I hope I don't even know if I want him to get the ticket or not. But I hope they don't have crisis in the new party. That's the real prayer. It's never about the ticket because they were okay before he went to join them. So I hope they don't have any problems. And whoever their presidential candidate is, may they run, may they have good health, may they do well, may they not win. Because I want President Tinubu to win, but I want that person to do well. I want them to have a great family and great health and good run. Okay, but I want Tinubu to win. Anyway, that's the journey of Peter Obi, and I'm going to bring a couple of people up, but it's going to have to be very brief because I need to get to the topic of today. So it's going to be very brief. Everything has to end in 10 minutes because what I want to read is a bit long, and we started a bit late, and I explained why. And thank you for bearing with me. Anyway, what we're going to from this actually is, or maybe I just wait for people to come up later, is actually why we should even bother. Why folks who are still following this obedience, whatever, need to sit down and rethink. Okay, you can't be following someone who is not consistent, who's moved from one place to another, who is, changing platforms at the smell of the faintest smell of trouble is out. Okay, that kind of person cannot lead a nation. Okay, that doesn't mean they can't lead other things, but not a nation, because whatever can go wrong will go wrong. Okay, and this is not the prayer that we want for Nigeria, but just the reality of where Nigeria is. And you need the person who has staying power, who is able to say, you know what, this is difficult, but we're going to find a way through it to actually lead the country. Not someone who says, oh, they're having problems, they have to leave. That doesn't sound to me like a leader, personally. And also, if you say you want to do this democratic, process, and you have to have primaries in your party, you should stick to it, right? And see it through. If you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. Once you begin to join from one place to another, you've not even been able to test yourself within that place. And I'll tell you why it's difficult. If you can't test your popularity in your party, what that means basically is this: when it's time to go out there, there's no structure that you're going to be banking on. Because you need the party to, that's why when they were saying the other day, you don't have structure, say we have structure of criminality. It's not about structure of criminality. It's about the fact that who will be at the polling units? It's not Obidients. Did they stay at the polling unit the last time? Everybody will be shouting LUP is 72, LUP is 73. That is what you'll be doing. You'll be singing. It takes more than that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it takes more than that. You need to have your party present in places. But anyway, hopefully he's going to get this from NDC and he'll be able to run. But like I said, I wish all of them all the best. I hope they do well and they succeed in their primaries. If they have anything like that, may they get the money they require to run the election, but may they not win, because Tinubu has to win. May Nigeria work for all of us. Thank you very much for listening to that. We're going to have some people come up very quickly, then go to today's topic. We're discussing from Zikists to Obidients, why Nigerian youth history is repeating itself, what Obidients are doing, what they've done, and what it looks like they're about to do right now, with how they've started insulting people where they just come out their group now. No. Just leave ADC just about 24 hours ago. They are now the worst thing in the world. Okay, some of those things have happened before. I want to discuss those things in the light of history. All right. We're going to make this very quick. And thank you for power tapping on TikTok on 115k likes. Thanks a lot. All right, I've brought some people up. As soon as you get up, please mute so that we don't have interference. And then we're going to have you share your thoughts. 2-3 minutes, please. I want to make it very quick because I have some interesting things to read to you. Not the one I was reading that time. It was you guys punished me for no reason. And I didn't even do anything wrong to you. Made me read Peter Obi's speech. God, that was depressing. Anyway, I have some very interesting things to read this evening, so let's quickly get done with this one. Okay, thank you very much. So let's have Bumblebee. Good evening, Bumblebee.
Good evening, my favorite prof. Ẹkáàbọ.
Welcome, my brother. Yes, sir. Well, thanks for joining.
Yes, sir. So basically, Sherry, Malo, Yoruba, Malo English, for issue to one lay. Gbami, and to buy a basic church, I think that we're going to be a basic church, and to Kolomarati. Now the truth now, but how?
Church in the Rifish example.
But now. That's just the fact of the matter. So they have an antecedent. And the thing is, these people have an assumption that the Northerners are foolish. And it's quite unfortunate. They don't know that our guys don't keep scores on. All them follow on back to back. On close marking. And they are very, very observant. They are not sleeping on their right. So in as much as we have a lot of insecurity issues and a lot of lack of education up north, but in terms of political savvy, you have to give it to them. So these people, they have an antecedent that is not good, and they keep doubling down. When people that are traders, that trade in the financial market, there's something called doubling down on a losing position. You've already taken a position, and the position is wrong. Because your ego is making you feel one kind of way. You now add more to that losing position. Don't shame. And they say when you're digging a pit, the first thing you need to stop is to stop. Otherwise, you keep digging yourself deeper. They need to learn to align themselves politically, and that is the issue. Well, as far as only he's just going to learn the hard way. The way Atiku is learning now, running around, maybe in the next 2053 or no, Mama contest one position. But meanwhile, Akweto, thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you very much, my brother Bumblebee. Brilliant submission, and comment section lacking on this. I'm not going to read this. But said because Obi is giving like something that's not good. Nothing concerns Tinubu about the opposition party problem. God bless you. And I've said this several times. As much as I love Tinubu to be president, I also would like to have a very strong opposition, to have somebody to keep the president on his toes, or the government as a whole, right? But who is the opposition now? Surely don't sort of see what they are doing to me. Does that sound like somebody who is doing any opposition? See, this man, President Tinubu, is lucky. He's very lucky. Imagine APC has what PDP had in 2011 or 2012, 2013. Imagine there's another party like that. That's what makes politics interesting. Because you have to know what you are saying in order to counter them, not the ones that just look at the person who is criticizing you. So rather that it's not good for Nigerian democracy. It should have been Nigeria's democracy. It would have been very lovely if, this coalition thing they were doing, regardless, it would have been nice for them to have one major person, whoever, even if it's Peter Obi. But like they said, they wanted to unseat the government in power. They will not be able to do it, but they will give him a run for his money. They will actually stretch. You know, when people stretch you, even you get better eventually, right? That's what I was expecting, but now everything has gone to the dogs. We'll see how that turns out. Hopefully next election they will share their 6 million, 2 million, 1 million, and Tinubu can still carry the day. May God help him. May God help everybody. Thank you very much for that submission.
Because I know it's not going to, you are not going to find it funny. I know for whatsoever reason, money a problem, Mama lament the watch you. And hello?
Yeah,
okay. So just a quick one. These people are not really impressing Nigerians. Let me just say it, because more opposition in fact more the real form of what opposition really means. I think they should have used their card wisely. But gbogbo eléyìí tí wọ́n kàn mú ilé wọn tí wọ́n put in disarray tí wọ́n da everything wrong. Definitely wọ́n ti fún bàbá ní unopposed ticket láti wọlé, and that is the way I see it. And as for whatsoever it is that Obi has been saying is just so childish. I'm sorry to say that. But I'm making the enemy sorry, but that is the way it really sounds. It sounded like bí pé tí àbá ní pé kọ́mọ kékeré máa sọ̀rọ̀, bí ìgbà tá àbá ní pé kéèyàn máa pariwo àwọn àjẹlé wa tún ti wá mi débí o, wọ́n tún ti tẹ̀lé mi débí ẹjọ́ ẹ gbà mí lọ́wọ́ wọn, ogun ìdílé leléyìí o. That is exactly the way he has been lamenting. So mo bóyá lamentation of Peter Gregory Obi la máa pe lé lórí mi ò mọ all this kind of we want a Nigeria where a common bí àbíbọ́ ní bó ṣe máa ń kàn ìwé ẹ̀dẹ̀ yẹn ọmọ ẹni tí ò jẹ́ nǹkan kan, I don't really know. Well, the opposition to me is not opposing at all. That is just the way I'm seeing it, because the Bible says a house that is against each other will never stand. So definitely wọ́n ti fún APC ní nǹkan tí wọ́n wá, and I wish Baba well, and I wish the party also a very sound good luck. But I want to make use of it, and Baba will have a second term without any qualms.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Ibironke. Thank you. And thank you, OA. I saw the stuff you sent to me. God bless you. It's brilliant. It was just published 15 minutes ago in The Guardian. No, Peter Obi said that they should not have litigation in NDC.
And it's not the only litigation. Now, the other one.
Let me quickly read this one. So the one you give us the other stuff. This is from Guardian Nigeria. Dual party rose scandal. Legal breach raises questions over APM NDC records. A civil society organization, Nigerian Democratic Rights Advocacy, NDRA, has raised concerns over an alleged violation of the revised Electoral Act prohibiting dual membership of political parties. In a statement issued on Sunday, the group said its attention was drawn to disturbing inconsistencies in official party records listing Barrister Ruben Eguaba as National Legal Advisor in both the Allied People's Movement, APM, and the Nigerian Democratic Congress, NDC, with one of the listings reportedly backed by court order. The statement signed by the group's General Secretary Julius Aondowase described the situation as more than a clerical error, warning that it poses serious legal and constitutional concerns. Quote, "This is not a clerical oversight. It is a serious legal contradiction with far-reaching implications." End of quote. That's what the statement said. And then he talked about the... Let me just read a little more. Citing provisions of the amended Electoral Act, particularly Section 77, NDRA noted that membership of more than one political party at the same time is expressly prohibited. The law is clear and uncompromising. Any individual found guilty of dual party membership is liable to a fine of up to 10 million naira and or a prison term of up to 2 years, the group stated. I think Otin Rubobo is about to begin. But let's have active J8 and then we'll have OA. Good evening, active. You know what, let's just have OA since you're still talking on this. Let's have OA, but please keep it short. Then we'll go to active, then we'll go to the topic of today. Hello, OA.
Okay, Prof. I was trying to get the interview of Dr. Mahabuba, and I'll be keeping you waiting. That was from April, right? The interview, and he was talking about why NDC shouldn't have been registered in the first place. So there's another litigation, and that was why the Tebalowo page one, you realize that the acting chairman and the acting leaders of the party is by court order. So there's litigation ongoing. So, and this is where I get upset with people like Obi. They know these things, and then they rile up their members, their followers. Now, I intentionally chew that word out that there is no litigation, no, do not bring it. Whereas the party is literally going through court stages. It's not as if there is none. It wasn't supposed to have been registered. You can check this man. His name is Dr. Umar Ado. UMARARDO.
I have it. I have that news.
Okay.
I have that news. I'm going to read it.
Okay. So that one is one side, and then the other one is this: the fact that in Nigeria, according to Electoral Act, there cannot be two. You cannot be sitting on two parties at the same time. So there's literally problem. It's just about the Nigerian youth. They do not care. Not that they do not care. We are not educated enough to understand these things. And when this litigation starts now, you'll be hearing persecution. They are persecuting me. I just hope that the federal government let him be. So what of others? When others start breaking the law, what do you say? So it's going to be a little bit dicey. I want to hear your opinion on that.
Sorry, my screen looks a bit blurry. Just give me a second, please. Umbo. All right. Thank you very much. I think you've already said what I would have loved to say, to be honest, because... Sorry, can you see me clearly? Is it my eyes?
Little bit blur. Yeah, it's good.
Is it better now?
It's good now. It's good now.
Okay. Thank you. I think you've said what I would have loved to say. And basically, it's that there are issues on ground. And this thing eventually is going to get bigger. And when it gets bigger, people begin to cry and say the federal government is the one stopping Peter Obi from doing something. And they'll begin to blame, President Tinubu, blame the federal government. That's actually what will happen. But let me read some of the news items you mentioned earlier very quickly. This one is from Business Day and it was published April 8, 2026. It's titled, Group Knocks INEC Over Backdoor Registration of NDC. Promoters of a political association, the All Democratic Alliance, ADA, have condemned the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, over the registration of the National Democratic Congress, NDC. ADA has said the NDC emerged through a fraudulent and opaque process outside the guidelines set by the INEC for the registration of new political parties in the country. The political association was one of 171 groups that sought registration as political parties ahead of the 2027 general elections. Umar Ado, leading promoter of ADA, made the allegations while speaking on separate television appearances on Arise News Morning Show and Trust TV. Ado said INEC compromised its own procedures by registering a political party that, according to him, never participated in the official screening process. He revealed that no fewer than 171 political associations initially submitted expressions of interest for registration, out of which only 14 were shortlisted by INEC. According to him, those 14 groups that were shortlisted by INEC underwent further screening, out of which only 8 of them progressed to the Commission's verification. He maintained that the ADA was among those that fully complied with all stipulated requirements and participated throughout the process, yet was denied registration. But in contrast, he alleged that the NDC was nowhere in the process and neither applied nor appeared at any stage of the screening process. Hardo stated, quote, "It is shocking that the political association that did not submit an application was not shortlisted among the 14 and did not make the final 8, suddenly appeared with a registration certificate." He rejected the claim by INEC that the NDC was registered based on a court order, describing the explanation as untenable and suspicious while questioning the legal foundation of such an order. So they already have an issue. There's another one I'll quickly read. This was yesterday. It's actually the same Ado speaking up again on 2 days ago, on May 2nd. A wave of controversy has erupted following the registration of the Senator Dixon-led National Democratic Congress, NDC, as the All Democratic Alliance, ADA, raises concerns over the legitimacy of the process. So everything he said, they republished it in the Guardian of 2nd May 2026. So I hope this thing works out for them. And someone, OA says, yes, Ado said he's going to court. Well, I wish them all the best. And I hope that when they get into whatever they're getting into, they will not blame anybody. And may God bless them. Now let's go to class. We're going to make it very quick. We're going to have a great time in the short time we have. We'll begin this session by listening to Omaile Shore. Mr. Shore has something interesting to say about the Obidients, and then we'll now go to the topic. The topic is from Zikists to Obidients, why Nigerian youth history is repeating itself. Please take a listen to this.
Had won the 2023 election, do you think he would have done better than what Tinubu is doing right now?
That was the reason I was supposed to be in 2022 and 2023, even when the whole country was saying, oh, he's better than, peanut butter. I said, look, how you would tell me what you did to Nigeria, you will show me what you did to your states when you were there for 8 years. And I've asked this question of all the people who support to be in this country. Nobody has been able to answer my question. can you go and spend your next vacation in Anambra that will be left behind? Is there running water there? No. Did you build any schools that you can send your children to? The answer is no. They will tell you that you should go and verify. It was go and verify that took me to Abia. I have verified now. You all are upset. Because I am a person who is scientific in nature. Most people, and I keep saying this, don't know Obi more than I do. I knew Obi as far back as 2007 when he was governor of Anambra State. I was in the US and we were doing reporting on him so that his mandate would not be stolen from him by Chris Uba, the Uba brothers, who were Obasanjo's lackeys. So we fought for Obi to the point that, and you can ask Obi this if you find him, if his memory has not left him. When I first met Obi, was in front of Professor Chino Achebe at Rhode Island in the US. He said to Achebe, he said, I've never met this Shore before, but if not for this guy and Sahara reporters, I wouldn't have I wouldn't be governor for 2 seasons. But by the time we were done with following Obi through media, we discovered that the guy didn't do anything. Everything he did was substandard. You know, you could never find any road that he constructed that has not been a road, that he didn't build any school. These things are not things that were told to me. These are things that I covered. And he's very good at propaganda, you know, to the point that when we then turned against him as Sahara reporters, I'm saying it because when we found out we started reporting on all his shenanigans, he was very upset. You know, there's a guy known as Valentine Obidients. He's one of the most rabid propagandists there is in the world. They were so upset with us. They went and printed posters in Aba accusing me and Oke Ndibe, who was a columnist with Sahara reporters, of being gay.
Hey.
And posted it all over Aba. I still have a copy of the posters. It was done by this Valentine Obidients, but Obi was the one who greenlighted it. Because one thing most people don't know about Obi is that...
Are you saying that Peter Obi started a smear campaign against
you? Of course.
You?
Look, it was what he was doing even in Aba. Anybody who was under him as governor will tell you, the Catholics, you know, the Anglicans, they have a history of his way of, you know, blackballing people. So, but we continued regardless until he went back, left APGA and joined the PDP and was working under Goodluck Jonathan as a special advisor. He was an economic advisor under Jonathan. So it's not like Obi left Anambra and went on vacation. He was still actively in government. In fact, at the time that Buhari came, Obi was the chairman of, I think, the stock exchange in Nigeria, I think in Lagos. So it was Buhari that kicked him out of that position. That was his last known position before he came back in 2022. I'm just telling you all these things so that you will understand that we are speaking from a place of knowledge and history.
Well, that was on my show, right, on Obi as a person and Obidients as a movement. Now, I'm going to just mention some books. If you can get them later, that'll be fine. But we'll focus on one. But I have the 3 here. It's just, I'm looking at how many things we'll be able to cover today, how much we'll be able to cover. There's Without Bitterness by Orizu. There's another one called Original Zikism by Orizu. Now, Without Bitterness was what gave rise to the Zikist movement. Contrary to what you may have thought, Zikism was not something that was created by Azikiwe. It was something that was created, well, wasn't created by, it was inspired by a statement that Nwafor Orizu made. And then certain people went to town and built something out of it, Zikism. But the idea of Zikism was actually from Nwafor Orizu. As in, it's so interesting that even Zik, according to Orizu, could not espouse everything that constitutes Zikism. I'll just read something very quickly before we get into other things. I'll read this one from Without Bitterness. This is a book. This was a book that was published, that was written by Nwafor Orizu. who was the former Senate president and acting president during the coup of 1966. It says, even Mr. Azikiwe himself does not know the full implication of the word Zikism as the author uses it. I should not be surprised if he even, I'll take that, let me start again. Even Mr. Azikiwe himself does not know the full implication of the word Zikism as the author uses it. I should not be surprised if he even disagrees with some of the interpretations I shall give to Zikism as a new philosophy of life. So it was something that he came up with. Again, the book is titled Without Bitterness. But I think a book that actually brings everything together, and if we have that I'm going to, read copiously from, is the Second World War and Politics in Nigeria, 1939 to 1953, written by Gabriel Olakunle Olusoya. Okay? We're going to stay on this book for a bit. If we have to read the other books, we will, but this book actually captures a lot of things that I think will help us in today's session. So again, we're discussing Zikism. We're trying to find the relationship between what we had in Nigeria at the time and what's happening now in Obedient movement. And we're doing this not necessarily just condemn people. That's not the point. The point is to tell people the end of what they are doing. Sometimes there are things that we do as young people. We think we're very smart. We think we know more than everybody. But sometimes history teaches us, the end of what we're doing. You can actually tell where you're going if you look at the patterns, okay? And then you can actually predict, okay, give or take this percentage here and there, but there's a high probability that this person is going to end up like this based on the things they're doing, because everything looks alike, but you're going to get it as we read. So I'm reading again the book I'm reading is The Second World War and Politics in Nigeria, 1939 to 1953 by G.O. Olusoya. It's going to be a very long read. We're going to enjoy it, so let's get into it. As a result of the inactivity on the part of the NCNC, noted in the preceding chapter, there came into prominence at this time an organization which has proved the most militant in the recent history of Nigeria. This was the Zikist movement. It was formed in 1946 by a handful of youths with the cardinal objective of defending Azikiwe against the attacks of his political opponents during the assassination story period. By the way, let me just pause to thank those who have been giving gifts. I should do that. I am Fred Mari. Thank you very much for the handouts. I noticed a lot of people giving earlier. I really appreciate your generosity. I don't usually stop, but I have to stop to thank you. Thank you for your support. And by the way, if you're on TikTok, please click on the heart icon above me here. Just this heart icon. Please click on it. Drop a heart me. Drop a gift. Let's keep pushing to the For You page. And thanks for your support. And if you want to support us financially, we're going to tell you how to do that at the end of the reading. Okay, please hang around and let's do this together. All right, so let's get back into this. Again, in 1939 to 1953, G.O. Olusoya is the author. As a result of the inactivity on the part of the NCNC, noted in the preceding chapter, there came into prominence at this time an organization which has proved the most militant in the recent history of Nigeria. This was the Zikist movement. It was formed in 1946 by a handful of youths with the cardinal objective of defending Azikiwe against the attacks of his political opponents during the assassination story period, and to honor and practically to deify him for his leadership of the nationalist movement. They were also pledged to action, quote, as there had been a decade of much talking in Nigeria. So they are the ones that are going to act, because people have been talking for so long, and now they were going to be the one to act. Again, remember, they were young, okay? They were young. They were going to defend Azikiwe against any attacks by anybody, and of course, eventually they deified him. At this point, I think I want to quickly read. Let me read something to you from Without Bitterness. I'm going to come back to this book. There's something I found quite interesting in that book by Nwafo Orizo on what that movement actually meant to them. Olori, good to see you, ma. Ẹkáàbọ. Listen to this. As one of those young men, okay, no, maybe I just go back a bit. When Orizu returned to Nigeria in November 1945, he was immediately, I'm reading Without Bitterness by Nwafor Orizu. When Orizu returned to Nigeria in November 1945, he was immediately called upon to give public lectures. The first was delivered in Lagos on November 26, 1945, entitled Horizontal Education and African Irredentism. In presenting his educational mission to Africa during his lecture, Dr. Orizu also interpreted the philosophy of Zikism as contained in Without Bitterness. It was at that meeting that several young men, such as Mokugo Okoye, Fred Anyam, Anthony Naoro, Nduka Eze, Kolawale Balogun, MCK Juluchuku, and Abiodun Aloba decided to subsequently form themselves into the Zikists movement within the framework of the NTNC. As one of those young men, Fred Anyam, testified, quote, "It was the reading of Without Bitterness that fired the imagination of impatient youths like Osita Aguna, Raji Abdullah, and Kola Balogun to launch the Zikist movement." One of the leaders of the Zikist movement, Mokugo Okoye, recalls, quote, "It was to defend and disseminate the message of Azikiwe against his enemies, the colonialists and their local petty bourgeoisie allies and apologists, that the Zikist movement was formed, the name having been suggested by Dr. A. Nwafor Orizu in his book Without Bitterness. The Zikist movement played an active part in the NCNC's agitation against the Richards Constitution, but then, frustrated by the absolute refusal of the British government to listen to it, torn by internal dissension and outside friction between ethnic groups, the NCNC lost its momentum and faltered. The point I wanted to pick from this book, from this particular passage, is that when they formed that group, it was more about defending Zik and disseminating the message of Zik against his enemies. And so you already have that at the back of your mind that it's a bit militant, it's a bit combative. Well, I use a bit because we're just starting. As we go on, we discover that there was not a bit anything. It was very combative. The idea was to fight what they call the people they call the local bourgeoisie, the elites, and who Zik often calls imperialist stooges. If you read Olo's autobiography, anybody who didn't agree with Zik was an imperialist. It was imperialist stooges. I mean, well, no, the Zik were referred to as imperialist stooges, Uncle Toms and anti-Jemimas. So these young men were going to protect Zik. They were going to defend him and disseminate. As I'm talking right now, just be removing Zik and put Peter Obi, you understand that it's about the same thing that you see today. Now, having read this portion of this book, we're going to go back to the one we started with, which is the Second World War and politics in Nigeria. So he says here, these young men found their inspiration mainly in Zik and his writings. The attachment to him is quite understandably, for despite all his failings, Azikiwe had contributed more than any other single person to the development of political awakening at this period. His rude, direct, and shocking journalism and his powerful propaganda machine, Zik's Press, had aroused Nigerians to a new determination. So also had his activities both in combating any insinuation or any expression about Negro inferiority and in promoting and throwing light on Negroes' contribution in all fields of human endeavor. These activities had helped to destroy much of the inferiority complex displayed by Nigerians and had combined to endow them with a new respect for and pride in their race, which became the main source of inspiration in the nationalist struggle. It was in order to prevent Zik, the hero, being overcome that the second objective of the movement, the defense of Zik against his enemies, can be understood. Further inspiration was found in the rather vague and nebulous doctrine propounded by Nwafor Orizu in his book Without Bitterness. It was, declared Anyam, the reading of Without Bitterness that fired the imagination of impatient youths like Osita C. Agona, Raji Abdullah, and Chief Kolawale Balogun to launch the Zikist movement. Accordingly, the philosophy of the movement was derived from the vague philosophy of Zikism propounded by Orizu. And this is what Orizu said: "I have coined the philosophy of Zikism to express the unconscious yearnings of my soul. Zikism is irredentism. It is a God-sanctioned plan. It is a rejuvenated universal philosophy. It is not jingoism." By the way, there is no substance to anything I'm reading, to what everything he's saying. but plenty being English. I think young people just need to fight for something. It's very similar to what happened after NSAS. People were just angry and they wanted to do something, so they had something to hold on to. I'll start again. I have coined, this is Orizu again, I have coined the philosophy of Zikism to express the unconscious yearnings of my soul, which is, let's go on. Zikism is irredentism. It is a God-sanctioned plan. It is a rejuvenated universal philosophy. It is not jingoism. It is not monistic. It is not sarcastic. It is not apologetic. It is faith in life, a creative impulse. Zikism must grow and spread on social myth, namely African irredentism, which must mean the redemption of African from social wreckage, political servitude, and economic impotency. Africa is then to be saved from ideological confusion, psychological immaturity, spiritual complacency, and mental stagnation. You see, I have the book that he actually wrote on this stuff, that people told him that he should actually write something separately about original Zikism. There's a lot of, to be honest, I don't know what the movement is about. I've read the book, but I don't. Anyway, the summary of it was I just read right now. So it's more like it is irredentism. What does that mean? It is a God-sanctioned plan to do what? It is a rejuvenated universal philosophy. It is not jingoism. It is irredentism. It is not monistic. It is not sarcastic. It is not apologetic. So what is it? It is faith in life, a creative impulse. Zikism must grow and spread on social myth, namely African irredentism, which must mean the redemption of African from social wreckage, political servitude, and economic impotency. What is it? What is this thing that will accomplish all these things? We still don't know. Africa is then to be saved from ideological confusion. Sorry, guys. Africa is supposed to be saved from ideological confusion, psychological immaturity, spiritual complacency, and mental stagnation. Now, if you understand what we just read, please feel free to explain in the comment section, or when it's time to come up, please feel free to come up as well. It is not our purpose to analyze this philosophy. I'm going back to the book now. It is not our purpose to analyze this philosophy. It is worth mentioning that despite its nebulous character, it provided some of the inspiration needed by a youth thirsty for action. Does it sound like what's happening right now? Like if you ask what it's all about, just be hearing consumption to production. The person who is telling you consumption to production is the one importing Heinz material, Heinz product. So, but doesn't have a factory to produce the things that is important. But it's telling you consumption to production, and you are shouting, "Yeah!" It doesn't really matter. You're just angry about something. Your anger may be justified, and the thing is, people can come and just be shouting A for apple, B for ball, and it should be powerful enough for you to just want to do something. That's what happened in the 1940s. It is not our purpose here to analyze this philosophy. It is worth mentioning that despite its nebulous character, it provided some of the inspiration needed by a youth thirsty for action. Zik's book, Renaissance Africa, also provided a necessary stimulus though it is difficult to understand how such a jumble of ill-digested ideas, characterized by superfluous use of words and lack of depth, and which Okoye, the Secretary General of the Zikist movement, described as verbose without being specific, moving without being profound, could have provided anybody with inspiration. Perhaps the dearth of indigenous literature provides the answer. Let me explain this to Renchi. I have the book he's mentioning here, Renaissance Africa. It was published in 1934. Zik just used Oyibo to frustrate the rest of us. By the time you read BB grammar, you think he knows what he's talking about. And that's why there was no specificity to anything. It was in that book that it said, 1934, that there should be no tribal appellations, because tribal appellations give tribal idiosyncrasies. There should be no Yoruba or Igbo, Fanti or Ga, Tuareg or this, Bubi. All of us are the same. We are all humans. Okay, so everybody's a human. 4 years later, when he started publishing his paper in 1937. By 1938, 4 years after I wrote that Turenchi, he began to push Igbo superiority in his own papers. That's the person that told us that we should all forget about ethnicity. Thank you very much for that gift, Active. God bless you. All right, let's go back to this. Anyway, the point is, regardless of how crazy it was, people needed something to fight for. So he's talking about 2 books now. The first one, Timo quote, Zikism, is from Without Bitterness by One for Reason. Then he's talking about the fact that another book that Zik wrote, that's the one that I said was published in 1934, Renaissance Africa, also provided the necessary stimulus, though it is difficult to understand how such a jumble of ill-digested ideas, characterized by superfluous use of words and lack of depth, and which Okoye, the Secretary General of the Zikists movement, described as verbose without being specific, moving without being profound, Jesus, could have provided anybody with inspiration. Perhaps the dearth of indigenous literature provides the answer. So he's saying here that, yes, you may say the book is moving without being profound and all of those things, but because we didn't have a lot of books written by our own people, people will read whatever it is that our people were writing, so that it makes them feel as if we too were contributing in the literary space. Okay. The movement was based on the principle of action, with little or no idea of the way society should be organized. Please, I want to ask you to please listen to this. And like I said, by the time we're done with this, if you're even if you're not, you will understand exactly where this thing is going to lead to. Like, it's not going to be difficult for you to understand the end of all, Sorry guys, some people are into those. And if you observe the patterns, you can predict the future to an extent. The movement, Ziki's movement, the movement was based on the principle of action, with little or no idea of the way society should be organized. Broadly speaking, it was a socialist in inclination, but its efforts were concentrated mainly on destroying colonial rule. What sort of society was to be put in place did not receive detailed consideration. In other words, there's an idea that the structure now is not good. Let's destroy it. What are you going to put in place when you remove that one? No answer. But we no go agree, we no go agree. Just remove it and just do something. You see, sometimes just do something without having a back. That's why I don't like this revolution now thing of Showere too. I don't mind that it's in politics, but this revolution, I just change things. When you change, what are you going to give? Same we said in Igbo. What are you going to give? What are you going to put in place once this is done away with? That's what they were doing at the time as well. We want to remove colonial, but how do you structure society after you have removed the people in power? No idea. This much was admitted by Okoye, the secretary of the movement. Quote, there was little thought. Listen to what Okoye said, that was much later. There was little thought of the detailed organization of the future state, and the motive power of the movement was the destruction of the old state machine, which had become oppressive and repressive. The youthful spirit of adventure in the young men, the righteousness of their cause, the consciousness that I think I'm a bit excited. I'm going to start again. There was little thought of the detailed organization of the future state and the motive power. Let me just drink water, I beg. So he's saying this was what Okoye, the secretary of the movement, of Zikists movement, this is what he said. There was little thought of the detailed organization of the future state, and the motive power of the movement was the destruction of the old state machine, which had become oppressive and repressive. The youthful spirit of adventure in the young men, the righteousness of their cause, the consciousness that through their little efforts, however misdirected or misconceived, the country advanced steadily to a Canaan, the feelings that historical necessity was on their side, and the ineffable joy of serving the highest cause in the world, the liberation of mankind, were all that mattered to the youths, whose mystic faith in the triumph of their cause was outstanding. Sounds like a motivational speech. At least it's still better than the depressing stuff I read from Peter B. earlier. I mean, truth be told. But even then, it lacks substance. From what can be gathered from the Zimo newsletter, where most of the Zikist ideas were to be found, the nationalism extended beyond the frontiers of Nigeria. They advocated a West African Socialist Union. This apart, they demanded the nationalization of the basic industries, fundamental human rights, maximization of social services and employment opportunities, direct action against imperialism, and extensive development of the cooperative movement. With regard to the creation of a West African Socialist Union, they were unrealistic, for they failed to take into consideration basic difficulties in the way of the Union, chiefly the lack of a West African outlook amongst all but a very few nationalists like themselves. What's it saying here? They never conquer Nigeria, finish. They won't conquer West Africa, right? They want to have a West African Socialist Union. However, they're not looking at the ethnic composition, the outlook of the different constituent units of, or what you call nations. Because at the time there was no independent country in West Africa at the time. These were different groups of people put together by the British, and whether you're in Gold Coast or in Nigeria or Liberia, wherever. Now you're thinking of having that West African outlook. It's the same thing you have with young people when they have conversations about what they think Nigeria should be. It's idealistic, it's very utopian, but it lacks substance because there's no understanding of the structure they're in. See, I think it's important that a lot of young people begin to continue to push against the status quo. It's very, very important. But I'll advise, and I'm young as well, that it's important to actually study what you want to change. You see, if you're going to break rules, it's better for you to know the rules you are breaking, so that you're not going to prison for no reason. It's important to actually understand where you are before you're able to switch into something more. Rather than just say, you know what, I don't like what they're doing, let's destroy it. When you are done destroying it, you don't know how to build anything. You don't know what to put in place once this thing is out. So when it's out, what do you have? You have chaos, which will not be worse, like the one that Jesus cast the demons out of in the Bible. It was a parable actually that Jesus shared, that somebody had demons and then the demon was cast out. He wandered around the world, came back when the place was occupied. He went to bring more terrible demons to go and live in the person's life. So he said that the man's end was worse than his beginning. The point is, if you have no plans, and it's the hard work, right? It's not difficult to be shouting, we no go grill. It takes a lot of gumption, okay? So I give it to those who want to protest. There's nothing wrong with that, okay, if you're doing it with sense. But generally speaking, the hard work is to ask yourself, when you remove this status quo, when you remove whatever it is that you consider status quo right now that is so terrible, number one, what are you going to put in place? Number two, how are you going to put it in place? If you say, don't worry, don't care about that, may you not succeed, because you're going to destroy the country. It's going to be worse than what it is now. And I'm not saying it's perfect. Of course it's not, far from it. But I'm saying that the hard work is to actually know exactly what you're inspiring people to do. So don't just cause chaos. And then the funny thing is, they are the ones that are telling you to go and destroy places or go and start Wala. They are the ones that want to benefit from what's going to happen. They are going to be the ones to replace the ones you are removing. In other words, they will continue the status quo beyond your wildest dreams. They're not trying to do anything. It's just propaganda. They just tell you, rile you up. Let's continue. So it says here that they lacked a West African outlook. It says here, with regard to the creation of a West African Socialist Union, these young people were unrealistic, for they failed to take into consideration basic difficulties in the way of the Union, chiefly the lack of a West African outlook amongst all but a very few fervent nationalists like themselves. The first 3 years of the movement's existence were uneventful. This period was spent just being the youth wing of the NCNC, holding up the image of Azikiwe by celebrating his birthday every November, arranging meetings and lectures and activities. This was due to the fact that the parent body, the NCNC, was politically active at this period, busily waging war against the Richard's Constitution. Because of this, the Zikists movement had to remain in the background. By 1948, however, the situation had changed. The NCNC had ceased to be politically active and had been frustrated by the lack of success of the 1947 delegation That's the ones who went to the UK. That were you here when we talk about it? That they went to the UK. I think they went with about £13,000. They returned and asked for accounting, like, show us the books. How did you spend the money? Zik's response was that 9,000 of the 13,000 came from the Eastern region. How is that the answer to the question? Eventually, he said it was because it was Igbo that the press in Lagos was asking for account. Anyway, they're talking about that meeting. So when he said that, by the way, the 1947 trip was so uneventful that they had almost like a burial ceremony in the East because it was like a waste of money. Anyway, let's go back to this. By 1948, however, the Zikist movement, by 1948, however, the situation has changed. The NCNC has ceased to be politically active and has been frustrated by the lack of success of the 1947 delegation. Eyoita attempted to explain the inactivity of the party thus, quote, "We are not extinct, but dormant." I'll tell that again. God. All right, let's go. Eyoita attempted to explain the inactivity of the party thus: "We are not extinct, but dormant volcanoes. We are not extinct, but dormant volcanoes waiting for the time when we can explode." Sorry, it's the way it's written. I apologize. "We are not extinct, but dormant volcanoes waiting for the time when we can explode." While Azikiwe, commenting on his own inaction, declared, quote, "I have chosen to exist as a dormant volcano and to erupt at the appropriate time," end of quote. Consequently, a political void was created with the Zikist movement, which the Zikist movement stepped in to fill. Many young men who had been disillusioned by the NCNC and frustrated by its inactivity rallied to the Zikist banner, and the Zikists declared that the time for positive action had come. Remember, Zikism was not founded by Azikiwe. It was something that was propounded by Nwafor in his book Without Bitterness. He also wrote another book called Original Zikism. And in there, he mentioned, like I read earlier, that even Zik might disagree with some of the things that they call Zikism. Okay? By the way, just like Obedient movement went beyond Obi, Zikism actually went beyond Zik. It got to the point even Zik himself denied them. Okay? And I hope we don't get there with what they are doing with Obedient movement at this point, because, it is well. Anyway, at this point in history, there was a vacuum, and we know that nature was a vacuum. So they filled it by creating a group, and their whole idea was to have positive action. Let's continue. The achievement of independence by India and Pakistan in August 1947 was not without its effect on the movement. India's political progress had been keenly followed in Nigeria, and our struggle applauded. The attainment of independence by India, therefore, at a time when Nigerian leaders seemed bewildered, uncertain, and consequently impotent, spurred on the younger elements to greater efforts. The Accra riots, which occurred in Ghana in 1948 and which led to concessions being given to Ghanaian nationalists, convinced the Zikists that similar action would bring similar results in Nigeria. All these factors were responsible for the transformation of the Zikist movement into a more dynamic and radical organization. The first task of the movement at this stage was to recruit enough followers, and in this it was successful. There were many young men and women who were eager for positive action and were prepared to follow anyone or any organization which could provide them with excitement. Consequently, teachers, students, and trade unionists came forward to join the new organization. To give more romance to the movement, a flag consisting of 5 colors and a red star was adopted. So also was a uniform made up of a white suit and a red tie. Once the preparatory stage was passed, the organization began in earnest the battle against the colonial administration. Scathing criticisms were showered on those policies and practices which were considered objectionable. The obnoxious ordinances, quote-unquote, obnoxious ordinances, the Richard's Constitution, and the economic and exploitation. Okay, let me take it again. The quote-unquote obnoxious ordinances, the Reuters Constitution, and the economic exploitation, which was just as much a feature of the post-Second World War period as of the pre-war era, came under heavy fire. The Zikists' main weapons in the struggle were strikes, boycotts, pickets, and non-violent civil disobedience campaigns, all of which were borrowed from the Indian National Congress. The two most potent weapons, however, were strikes and boycotts, and some of the leaders were trade unionists. It was quite easy for them to organize strikes. Their intention in employing this tactic was to weaken the economy of the country, thereby weakening to some extent the British economy and creating discontent within Nigeria, which could be channeled into the nationalist cause. It was not unlikely that the wave of doing. As for the boycott movement, this started in earnest in 1947 with the arrival of Mbono Ojike from the United States of America, where he had done further studies in journalism and political science. The slogan was "Boycott the Boycottables." And though the boycott movement was not very successful in the end, partly because it was rather half-hearted, nevertheless, it created Nigerians in strikes and boycotts apart, the movement sought to achieve its end by active political propaganda. Apart from the constant public lectures and extensive private discussions, it began publishing a monthly newsletter, Zimo newsletter, and other pamphlets, such as What Satyagraha Means to Us, A Call for Revolution, Workers of Nigeria Revolt, and numerous others. An analysis of the contents of some of these publications showed that they were revolutionary in tone. For instance, in the pamphlet, A Call for Revolution, the movement called upon all Nigerian proprietors of schools who had hitherto suffered in the awards of grants in aid to inculcate in their pupils a spirit of hate and contempt for the British Crown and for the empire in which they formed the plebeian class, and with other nations to boycott the commemoration of Empire Day, a day on which, quote, our slavery was consummated, end of quote. It urged that direct taxes should be withheld by all, and such monies be paid to national organizations in order to paralyze Britain's economy. It stated that in the event of war between European countries, the people should refuse to offer themselves for military service, and that all policemen called upon to serve the imperialist interests of Britain by attacking unarmed workers or peaceful nationalist demonstrators should refuse to do so. It urged that leaders of present organizations and social and cultural societies should inculcate the new philosophy of revolution in their people and expose the devious system of imperialism and the way to combat it. It then went on to encourage the young people to interest themselves in military tactics and called upon them to organize intensive picketing, various forms of underground activity, and deliberate group resistance to tyranny. And the pamphlet Workers of Nigeria Revolt contained statements such as, quote, you should revolt, you should hate every European in this country, protest against Nigeria becoming a military and police state, don't fear to attack any European or African who stands in your way to freedom. It concluded, read, digest, and pass on to your friends. End of quote. It is obvious that publications of this nature could not be circulated for general public consumption without endangering the authors. Consequently, they were circulated privately and reached only an insignificant number of Nigerians. The movement's campaign was directed not only against British rule, but against fellow Nigerians, whom its members considered not nationalistic enough. So, for British rule, you can substitute that with the government that we have right now. And for fellow Nigerians that they consider not nationalistic enough, it could be everybody that is not supporting whatever political party they are right now, or supporting P2B. And this is what they wrote. Our campaign will not be limited to imperialism, but it will be carried out against African nationals and semi-nationals, institutions, organizations, and establishments that are opposed in any way to our march towards immediate irredentism, for the enemy is no less a danger than his ally. This was merely an echo of Azikiwe's view, For on 7th May 1947, in a speech after his election as president of the NCNC, he stated, this is Zik, "Let it be firmly impressed upon the minds of any person in this country that I regard all people who uphold the status quo and regard the present political servitude of Nigeria as the best of all possible worlds as enemies of progress. Just as the worshippers of imperialism must be viewed as international criminals like the Nazi counterparts." I'll take that again from the beginning. "Let it be firmly impressed upon the minds of any person in this country that I regard all people who uphold the status quo and regard the present political servitude of Nigeria as the best of imperialism must be viewed as international criminals like their Nazi counterparts. So must their adherents and stooges, who are in reality accomplices. But I warn the stooges that when Nigeria shall come into our own and we are in power, every one of them, indigenous or alien, shall be held to strict accountability and shall be impeached for high treason against the safety." Hello, can you hear me? Someone says no sound. Can you hear me, please? Okay, I think it's the person's device. You can hear me, Abi? Okay, so I think it's your device. You may want to fix that device. And I think I should even use the opportunity to switch the device that I am using. Although it's good, but just so I can charge the other device. Thank you for the response, City Girl and Greater Me, First Sean. Thank you. Let's just switch. I hope you can hear me. Shem Gomilada. We still have a few more pages to cover before we go tonight. Can you hear me, please? I've seen the first set of yeses. Okay, you can hear me. Okay, great. So let's continue. Let me just read the speech that Zikiwe gave, right? Then we'll continue from there. So he said that what the young men were saying was merely an echo of Azikiwe's view. For on 7th May 1947, in a speech after his election as president of the NCNC, he stated, "Let it be firmly impressed upon the minds of any person in this country that I regard all people who uphold the status quo and regard the present political servitude of Nigeria as the best of all possible worlds as enemies of progress. Just as worshippers of imperialism must be viewed as international criminals like the Nazi counterparts, so must the adherents and stooges who are in reality accomplices. But I warn the stooges that when Nigeria shall come into our own and we are in power, every one of them, indigenous or alien, shall be held to strict accountability and shall be impeached for high treason against the safety of the state of Nigeria." By 1949, the movement had become very popular and might have forced the imperial government to grant some measure of constitutional advance earlier than envisaged if it had not been hampered by a number of factors. Firstly, the movement was made up of people with more enthusiasm than discipline. Moreover, by the way, in case you're just joining us, I'm reading The Second World War and Politics in Nigeria, 1939 to 1953 by G.O. Olusanya. Thank you, Prince. Let's go on. So he says here that by 1949, the movement here is Zikists movement, had become very popular and might have forced the imperial government to grant some measure of constitutional advance earlier than envisaged if it had not been hampered by a number of factors. Firstly, the movement was made up of people with more enthusiasm than discipline. Moreover, there was lack of coordination between the headquarters and the various branches throughout the country, partly because of poor communication facilities, with the result of the activities were ill-planned and poorly executed. This lack of coordination led to sporadic outbreaks of disturbances which involved violence in isolated cases. Attacks on individual British and other officials were not uncommon, as these activities were spasmodic. Excuse me. I'll say that again. Attacks on individual British and other officials were not uncommon. As these activities were spasmodic and uncoordinated, the organization could not exert any effective pressure on British colonial administration, and the isolated case of violence only helped to discredit the movement. Furthermore, the movement did not ensure a reasonable following before plunging into battle. This was poor strategy. Its followers were so eager to be in the field, so willing to offer themselves as martyrs for the nationalist cause, that they went into the battle ill-equipped and were therefore easily vanquished. It would have served their purpose better if they had first of all gained the support of the trade unions, the ex-servicemen, and other militant organizations before launching their attacks. In fact, they were well placed to win such support. Mokugo Okoye, the Secretary General, was an ex-soldier himself, and he might have used the appeal of comradeship in arms to entice ex-soldiers into the movement. As the ex-soldiers were themselves thirsting for action at this time, it would have needed merely a push to get them into the field. Nduka Eze, one of the founders of the movement, was an active trade unionist, and it would not have cost him much effort to secure the support of the trade union movement. Perhaps the division within the organizations did not endear them to the Zikists. Finally, by the way, I should also mention, they were part of the group that went to attack the Yoruba people in 1948. Okay, we won't get to it today. When Zik put out the statement in September 1948 in West African Pilot, that was a fascist organization that must be crushed. His words. Was a fascist Yoruba organization in Yoruba land was a fascist organization that must be crushed. And he said that people should attack them in their homes abroad and at home. In their homes in the country, in Nigeria and abroad. They should just attack them uphill, down dale, attack them. They attack them. Finally, the government felt by now that they were going too far, particularly because of the lecture entitled Age of Positive Action, given by the president of the movement, Alhaji Raji Abdullah, then Raji Abdullah. In that lecture, Abdullah gave fervent expression to the burning hostility towards the British imperial government when he declared, quote, "I hate the Union Jack with all my heart because it divides the people wherever it goes." Union Jack is the British flag. "I hate the Union Jack with all my heart because it divides the people wherever it goes. It is a symbol of persecution and brutality. We have passed the age of petition. This is the age of action. Plain, blunt, and positive action." End of quote. The government decided to put the movement in its place. 10 of its members were arrested and charged with sedition on the grounds that they were attempting to disturb law and order. They were tried and most of them were convicted and imprisoned. The organization consequently became temporarily less active, but not for long. On 18 November 1949, there occurred an incident, the Enugu shooting incident, the movement once more into conflict with the colonial regime. The incident is of major significance in Anglo-Nigerian relations because it was one of the first breaks in the tradition of, if passionate verbal conflict and paper warfare between the Nigerians and the British. On 8 November 1949, the Nigerian miners at the Enugu colliery adopted a go-slow tactic. Okay, let's just read it. I want to see how much more we need to read. Okay, very soon. Almost got done. I think the crazy one, if we can get to it today, we'll read it, is the one that has to do with the National Church of Nigeria. There was something called the National Church of Nigeria. Maybe we'll read it today, but I'll just say that when they have their service, they read passages from the Bible, they read from Azikiwe's book, Renaissance Africa, they read from NCNC Manifesto, and then American Declaration of Independence. They even had anthems and songs that deified Azikiwe. Thank you, Prof. He's actually said the same in the comment section. A church created to pray to Zik. Zik was alive. This was in the 1940s into the 50s. Just to tell you, ayé táwọn ti jayé burúkú Nàìjíríà. Only oh yes, oh I know educated elite in Nigerian society too. That one even wrote out the song they sang for Zik, like an anthem they composed just for Zik. If we have the time, maybe I don't know, another time we'll probably deal with that. But you can also research it. Imagine going to church, you read the Bible, then you read the book by Zik, then you read NCNC Manifesto, then you now read American Declaration of Independence. We'll get to that some other time, but I know this is a very long read, but I just think it's important to get into some of these things, and then I'll bring some people up, and then we'll close. On 8 November 1949, the Nigerian miners at the Enugu Colliery adopted a go-slow tactic in protest against the government's refusal of their demand for a daily wage of 5 shillings, 10 pence, I think, 59 kobo, that is, and welfare facilities. This led to a sit-down strike on 15 November. On 18 November, the government, fearing that explosives might be used by the miners for rioting purposes, sent a detachment of police to remove the explosives. While the police were discharging their duty, a crowd of miners carrying crowbars and picks, which they used in their day-to-day labor, surrounded them. The officer in charge lost his nerve and ordered his men to open fire. 18 men were killed and 31 wounded, 2 of whom later died. This incident produced an outburst of indignation and protest from Nigerians. On 20th November, the governor, Sir John Macpherson, perhaps in an attempt to conciliate the nationalists, announced that a commission of inquiry would be appointed to carry out a full investigation. This could not and did not appease Nigerians. A national emergency committee consisting of members from all the political parties and the labor unions was formed with Dr. Akinola Maja, president of the Nigerian Youth Movement, and Mbono Ojike, vice president of the NCNC, as president and vice president respectively. The committee aimed at tackling immediately the problems arising out of the shooting incident at Enugu Colliery and at exploring the possibilities of forming a permanent national emergency council. It appointed its own commission of inquiry at a mass meeting in Lagos on 22nd November. At that meeting, it was resolved that the Nigerian people should not entertain an official commission of inquiry whose commission was unacceptable to them. The resolution further expressed lack of confidence in the government and demanded that those responsible for the shooting should be tried. The Zikists movement could not allow such an incident to pass quietly. Here at last was a justification for all they had been saying, that colonial rule was evil and unmindful of the interests of the subject people. Under their leadership, there occurred an outbreak of riots in all the important towns of Nigeria, which led to more shooting and loss of lives. Greater calamity was prevented, however, by the intervention of labor union leaders who persuaded the Zikists to abandon rioting. As a result of these disorders, the governor declared a state of emergency throughout Nigeria on 26 November, and the police were given the power to impose curfews and search houses without warrant. Press censorship was imposed on the grounds that some sections of the press were deliberately attempting to aggravate the situation by inflaming public feeling. Many people were arrested and imprisoned. This prompt action on the part of the government and the good sense of the Nigerian leaders prevented the further deterioration of the situation. On 23 November, the miners agreed to return to work pending the appointment of an official commission of inquiry, but the go-slow movement continued and was not abandoned until 1st December, and then only after the intervention of the National Emergency Committee. On 27 November, the Commission of Inquiry was appointed under the chairmanship of Sir Walter Fitzgerald to inquire into and report on the recent disorders in Nigeria, with special reference to the labor troubles at Enugu Colliery and the events which followed. The report of the... By the way, all this colliery I'm shouting is coal, where they are mining coal. All right. The report of the commission, which was published on 9 June 1950, criticized very strongly the management of the colliery, the police, and the secretary of the Mine Workers Association, Mr. Ojiyi. The management was criticized for treating the dispute as a political rather than an industrial dispute, a stand which, according to the report, led them to use armed police in removing the explosives from the mines. As for the Commissioner of Police, he was condemned for refusing the offer of Mr. Honey to get in touch with the strikers on the grounds that it will be taken as a sign of weakness, an attitude which, according to the report, indicated an unfortunate frame of mind. The commissioner blamed Mr. Phillips, the officer in charge of the police who removed the explosives for his inability to control his men, described the order to fire given by him as an error of judgment, and concluded that his action fell short of the standard that might be expected from someone of his rank and seniority. But he praised the Assistant Superintendent of Police, Mr. Brown, for his action in averting further disaster. So talk about the report that he wrote on that matter, and I don't want to read everything because of time, but he also talked about the fact that the Secretary of the Mine Workers, Mr. G, said the report was dishonest and worthless, condemned the trade union. The press came under attack, particularly New African newspaper, and we're going to leave all the matter that has to do with Enugu shooting and go on to Zikism. Somebody said I should talk about Nkrumah. I think we'll find something here about that. But we'll have Nkrumah conversation some other time. But let's just jump some paragraphs because of time. So it says here, it condemned, that's the Commission of Inquiry, condemned the Nigerian trade union movement and stated that the movement as it stands today is in a bad way and calls for a thorough overhaul. The press also came under attack as some newspapers, particularly New Africa, had backed up Oji's quote-unquote lies by asserting that a sum of £80,000, 160,000 naira, was due to the workers. The commission observed that it may seem incredible that any newspaper should have been guilty of such an offense, but we are forced to the conclusion that the major part of the press of Nigeria discloses a degree of irresponsibility that bodes no good for the people of the country. Okay, let's just move to Zikists. Let's go back to Zikism that we're discussing. It can be observed from the above that the Zikist movement played a prominent part in the rioting which followed the shooting incident in November 1949. The activities during that incident marked the zenith of the success of the organization, for by 1950 the movement had crumbled, following the flush of victory during the Enugu shooting incident. The movement held its annual conference in Kaduna in December 1949 and there passed a resolution rejecting colonialism and calling for a provisional government to be set up in Nigeria, comprising the major political parties who would work out a basis of agreement with Britain and restore unity and confidence in the country. They also planned a D-Day for civil disobedience and called upon Zik and Nkrumah to give effective leadership to the liberation movement. Meanwhile, the government had been closely watching the activities, particularly as a government security officer had testified during the sittings of the Fitzgerald Commission, which inquired into the incident that the Zikists had been encouraging the formation of a terrorist organization and had been trying to obtain arms and explosives. Let me drink water. All right, that paragraph again. Meanwhile, the government had been closely watching the activities, particularly as the government security officer had testified during the sittings of the Fitzgerald Commission, which inquired into the incident that the Zikists had been encouraging the formation of a terrorist organization and had been trying to obtain arms and explosives. This made the government even more determined to destroy the organization. And following the attempt of an ex-serviceman, supposedly a member of the movement, to assassinate the chief secretary of the colony, Hugh Foot, the government swooped down on the movement and its officers were arrested and jailed. Essentially, they're trying to create they wrote it a terrorist organization. They wanted weapons. They want to destroy everybody. One of their members, who was an ex-serviceman, tried to assassinate the chief secretary of the colony, Hugh Foot. And apparently, they were arrested and jailed. The Secretary General Okoye was sentenced to 33 months imprisonment, and the movement banned on the ground that it was dangerous to the good government of Nigeria. After the ban, efforts were made to revive it under a different name. But as most of its leaders were in jail and those outside too disorganized for action, little or no success was achieved. From then on, the Zikists smarting under disappointment, disillusionment, betrayal, and the jeers of fellow Nigerians, found a way of escape by concentrating on more exciting nationalist development in other parts of the world, particularly in Ghana. The question may now be asked as to what exactly the Zikists achieved. Apart from the fact that they carried on the struggle at the time when the other nationalists had left the field owing to disappointment, and the new pride in Nigerian culture stimulated by the boycott movement, which they started, there were other achievements to their credit. They contributed in a substantial way, partly the political radicalism set in motion by the Zikists, and partly the desire of the imperial government to seize the opportunity that led to the introduction of the Macpherson Constitution in 1951. The reason for their limited success are many. First, despite their many failings, the Zikists were sincere and dedicated men, and these are qualities that attract supporters. Again, it's as though you are reading about the Obidients movement. A lot of these people, especially the young ones, are very, 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 very honest. But you can be honestly wrong. And very naive as well. Most of them, I'll take that again so that I can put it together. The reasons for the limited success are many. First, despite their many failings, the Zikists were sincere and dedicated men, and these are qualities that attract supporters. Most of them were ready to sacrifice everything they had, if necessary, their lives and home. Sound like Obi. And that they nevertheless, Obi just said something similar today, and that they nevertheless continue to struggle unmindful of poverty, of the jeers of onlookers, the pleadings of friends and relatives, and the scorn of Nigerian political leaders. For instance, according to Raji Abdullah, he was dismissed from his £210, 420 naira a year job in the Post and Telegraphs Department because of a lecture he delivered in 1947. While B.G. Ogbuagu, the just president of the movement, had his paper, the Northern Advocate, find out of existence. Similarly, Adesanya Idowu was alleged to have been dismissed from his Post and Telegraphs job and persecuted by his home native authority at the instigation of the colonial administration. A question may also be asked as to why the organization was so short-lived. Apart from the persecution of the colonial government brought about by the movement's revolutionary activities, the greatest due to the unfounded fear that they might be supplanted. Consequently, these leaders did all they could to discredit the movement. Nobody is even discrediting this one. They are flourishing. They're not having this particular problem. They describe its members as hot-headed, which is true for Obidients, and irresponsible. True in a way. Not all of them are irresponsible, but many of them are hot-headed. These attacks would not have mattered. These attacks would not have mattered much if Azikiwe himself had not shown some hostility towards the movement. Zik had been responsible to a great extent for the political ferment in the country, and it was partly because of the desire to defend Azikiwe against his enemies that the Zikists movement came into existence. But though Zik had provided the youth with their revolutionary zeal, please pay attention to what I'm about to read. This happened yesterday. It happened. Zik had been responsible to a great extent for the political ferment in the country, and it was partly because of the desire to defend Azikiwe against his enemies that the Zikist movement came into existence. But though Zik had provided the youths with a revolutionary zeal, he was not keen on following the path of revolution itself. As Okoye has put it, Nigeria's messianic hero, for some reason, was not disposed to move fast with the massive force he had roused. End of quote. Zik's attitude can easily be accounted for. First, he was a passionate believer in constitutional methods. His training in the United States had imbued him with respect for democratic processes. He was therefore unwilling to adopt revolutionary means in order to achieve any objective. Second, it would appear that though Zik was keen on rousing the masses, he was not the type of man who would be prepared to wear the thorny crown of political martyrdom. He failed to believe, as did the nationalist leaders elsewhere, unnecessary imprisonment for the cause he believed in. He wanted, as he was later to declare, independence on a platter of gold. Consequently, he failed to give the necessary type of leadership which the Zikist movement demanded. Most of its members were young and over-enthusiastic, and guidance from an experienced man such as Azikiwe might have mellowed some of their youthful exuberance. Zik's attitude was often explained by some scholars by the fact that the Zikists possessed a tendency to violence and excess, and that they had intended to involve Azikiwe in some actions which might have led to his imprisonment. These they hoped would spark off a revolt in the country, force the hand of the British administration, and ensure the rapid political progress which they so ardently desired. This argument has some validity, but it cannot altogether explain Azikiwe's constant In other words, when they got to a particular point, even Zik began to criticize them. And so they turned against him as well. For instance, those members of the movement who were in jail. There were constant newspaper attacks on the Zikist political prisoners, which greatly annoyed the movement. And the scornful way in which Azikiwe sometimes referred to them as very galling. At the time the boycott movement was in full swing, Zik denounced it as irresponsible. It was just one of the 200 member unions of the NCNC who had, he denounced it as irresponsible. It was just one of the 200 member unions of the NCNC who had acted without his authority and retarded national progress. The Zikists regarded this as a betrayal, and Zik's attitude created a bitterness which has even now not been altogether extinguished. Okoye, commenting on Zik's attitude to the movement as a whole, declared, Dr. Azikiwe's denial of the Zikists before the cock crowed twice was painful but understandable. After preaching a revolution for a decade, he, a successful businessman and a man of pleasure, was terrified when he saw one. He may have been right in restraining the ardor of the young, and it has been claimed that this timely denunciation saved them from untimely death as martyrs of freedom. But be that as it may, prudence without courage is mean, without loyalty, weak. Discretion may be the better part of valor, and moderation a mark of virtue, but in no circumstances can the betrayal of a comrade be justified. And the demoralization of one's army is treachery, even if it is ennobled by other names. And to demoralize youth in a righteous cause is Christ's most cardinal sin. That's from Okoye. Finally, the organization did not possess the financial strength needed to sustain it for a long time. At no time did it depend on external financial aid or support. Whatever amount of money the movement passed was due to the self-sacrifice of its members. And that's that about Zikist movement in this particular book. I don't want to open another book on that matter. If you want to understand the entire ideology, which can be a bit confusing, you have to read the book by one. But let me just quickly read this one to make you, to just let us chill a bit before we go. And then, okay, so if you want to come up, I'll bring you up in a minute. Not in a minute, in a bit. Let me just read a few things from the National Church of Nigeria. This is Eni. It's Jara. Developing about the same time as the Zikist movement was another radical organization, the National Church of Nigeria. This organization deserves a place in the political history of Nigeria, for although it was a cultural revolt, it was at the same time political in its implications and in its pronouncements and activities. God sends his prophets. Listen, yes, bonus is the English word. I've said in Nigeria. Thank you for the English bonus. This is what they wrote in their own book. God sends his prophets to various nations from age to age to lead, teach, succor, defend, and reform his human creations. Thus the Arabs had Muhammad, Russians Lenin, India Gandhi, and Africa has Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. Believe it or not, that's from their own catechism they call it, and credo, written by KOK Onyoba, the National Church of Nigeria. Its catechism and credo, Yaba, 1950. So it says God sends his prophets to various nations from age to age to lead, teach, succor, defend, and reform his human creations. Thus the Arabs had Muhammad, Russians Lenin, India Gandhi, and Africa as Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. The church was founded on the belief that foreign churches were ill-equipped to serve the interests of Nigeria for the obvious reason that they were not indigenous institutions. All churches, declared one of its adherents, exist to serve a given people and not purposelessly. The members of the church were particularly bitter against the foreign churches, as none of them came out on the side of the nationalists in their struggle against imperialism. Just like they're insulting church right now. Church, stay back your country. You don't understand, they insult the churches. The church, they claimed, employed their doctrines to suppress political consciousness in the country. The activities, meanwhile, it's the same churches that actually gave rise to nationalism in Nigeria. But if it's not supporting exactly what they want at that particular time, then the churches are not serious. But let's read a few things. The churches, they claimed, employed their doctrines to suppress political consciousness in the country. The activities carried on by the church were more political than religious. Services were occasionally held in remembrance of Robert Macaulay, the late president of the NCNC, and on other occasions which the members of the church considered as occasions of national tragedy, like the Enugu shooting incident. On these occasions, a typical service would be the reading of passages from the Holy Bible, Azikiwe's Renaissance Africa, the NCNC Manifesto, and the American Declaration of Independence in that order. The readings were then followed by a sermon. These services were nothing but political campaigns directed against colonial rule and eulogizing nationalists acceptable to the national church, like Dr. Azikiwe, while casting aspersions on others who were generally referred to as imperialist stooges. National prayers were offered to the God of Africa. 49, I also talked about the God of Africa. National prayers were offered to the God of Africa, who was, however, identified with the universal God, for the nationalists were scrupulous in stating that the movement was not in any way anti-Christian. O Almighty and everlasting God of the universe, God of Africa, give ear to the prayers of thy children who are assembled here, to implore thee to give us freedom from foreign domination and freedom to own and enjoy this portion of thy earth, which thou hast without a mistake allocated to us. Typical of these services was one held on Azikiwe's 46th birthday and conducted by the Lagos District Superintendent KOK Onyoba and the Reverend G.M. Umeanya. The service started with a song entitled All Men Are Created Equal. This was followed by a prayer, a lesson, and another hymn entitled Self-Realization. The theme of the hymn was that until Africans believed that they share equally the virtues possessed by other races, they could not progress. The second lesson was read by Zik. It was nothing more than the reaffirmation of his faith in the God of Africa and of his conviction that Africa was not destined to be humiliated. This was followed by the sermon delivered by the superintendent. His theme was African Renaissance. He built this theme on the teaching of Muhammad in the Quran that God sends to his children from age to age his prophets to lead, teach, and help them. He then went into the history of Islam and Christianity. He stated that the two races who introduced these religions were suffering from social oppression from God. They were suffering from social oppression when God sent in different ages Jesus and Muhammad to teach them to love one another. in order that peace might reign. After this, Zik reminded the congregation that the Jehovah of the Bible worshipped with fanaticism by Africans today was nothing more than a Hebrew tribal god, called in Hebrew language Yahweh. He stressed that Africa had been a shrine of peace, giving shelter to the persecuted, and consequently, Africa had a peace mission to fulfill amongst mankind. Zik then knelt before the altar and was blessed by the district superintendent, while the congregation sang the invocation, "May his ideals survive." You know what? Before I read what this man has to say about the organization, I want to read something to you from Educated Elite. This same God of Africa that Zik is talking about here, saying, "No, is one who said that the God of Africa had specially created the Igbo race to lead the children of Africa from the bondage of the ages." I'll see if I can quickly find you that stuff. Somebody say, Oma, it would be nice. So, I think, yeah, I found it. This book is called The Educated Elite in Nigerian Society by E.I. Ondele. Let's take a listen to something very interesting. Sorry, boys will be boys. Let's get into this. So it says here, in the meantime, other Igbo sons had gone to America and returned. They all placed themselves under Nnamdi Azikiwe's leadership and became his ardent supporters for the greater part of the struggle for independence. Prominent among these were Mbono Jike. Excuse me. In the meantime, other Igbo sons had gone to America and returned. In the meantime, other Igbo sons had gone to America and had returned. They all placed themselves under Nnamdi Azikiwe's leadership and became his ardent supporters for the greater part of the struggle for independence. Prominent among these were Mbono Jike, Kingsley Ozumba Mbadiwe, and Nwafọ Rizo, all of whom wrote works with nationalist message for Africa in general and Nigeria in particular. They were to become prominent leaders of the Igbo State Union, whose activities were later to give consent to other tribes of Nigeria as to the vision of the Igbo for the country. Indeed, as early as 1949, Nnamdi Azikiwe's romantic view of the Igbo and their leadership claims had made him declare as president of the Igbo State Union, the God of Africa has specially created the Igbo nation to lead the children of Africa from the bondage of the ages. I'll read that slowly. The God of Africa, according to Zik, the God of Africa had specially created the Igbo nation to lead the children of Africa from the bondage of the ages. The martial prowess of the Igbo nation at all stages of human history has enabled them not only to conquer others, not only to conquer others, but also to adapt themselves to the role of preserver. The Igbo nation cannot shirk its responsibility. The heroic status which Azikiwe achieved among the Igbo was unmistakable. The National Church of Nigeria, founded by one K.O.K. Onyeoha around 1950, made Nnamdi Azikiwe the main subject of eulogy and deification, apart from sublimating the works of Mbono Jike, K.O. Mbadiwe, Nwafọ Rizo, and Renaissance Africa as the scriptures of the Church. On 25th November 1950, when Azikiwe worshipped there, he was elevated to the position of Jesus Christ and Muhammad. The following composition was made to mark his birthday. Good Lord, bless for us great Zik of Africa. Bless him, protect him in his struggle to free Africa. May long he live to lead all Africa out of bondage. O Lord, bless for us. Bless this great champion of human rights. Let the ideals he represents survive to save man through the ages. Whatever pan-Nigerian predilections Azikiwe had were destroyed by the aggressive Yoruba nationalism from which he had begun to suffer in the 40s. A nationalism which, ironically, he had done much to provoke with his Igbo-mania in his press. Thwarted and agonized in his effort in 1951 to transfer his political ambition to the Western region, he read the writing on the wall that Yoruba land could not be his constituency, that his power base was Igbo land in the Eastern region, where he could reap the benefit of charity beginning at home. In a meteor-like fashion, he descended on the Eastern region, easily dislodged the non-Igbo leadership of the regional government, and rapidly succeeded in installing himself as the undisputed head of the region on the fulcrum of Igbo nationalism as symbolized by the NCNC. That's the Nationalist Church of Nigeria. Now, I'm going to bring some people up now. We're just reading some of the very interesting political organizations that existed in the 1940s and 50s in Nigeria, and to also tell some of us that many of the things that we're doing have been done, and the end that those people, the end, right, is not something very cool. And the way people are moving with this Obidient movement, it appears they are heading for that same end. And I'm not praying that that happens. That's why I'm reading this, so people will actually learn and maybe just take a detour. All right, we're going to, maybe on that day, we'll probably go deeper into this National Church of Nigeria. By the way, it's an Igbo church. It was totally Igbo through and through. Just be shouting Africa, Africa is a lie. But yeah, Zik was a deity amongst them, you know. But I'll just end by saying this, that what we were trying to do in the 1940s and 50s was what other people have done thousands of years ago. And the idea of creating religion for your people is something that's natural to people. And they just woke up at that time. They said whenever you wake up is your morning. But don't tell people who have been awake all day that when you woke up around midnight is their morning. May God bless everybody. All right, I'll bring some people up to speak. And by the way, I hope we have learned something. If you're obedient, everything we read about Zikism, I just said to read instead of explaining much. That gives you like a trajectory of, a possible trajectory for your movement, right? There's a lot of passion, enthusiasm, there's a lot of idealism, but very little understanding of how the world works. And eventually it's going to lead to disillusionment because you're going to try to do what you want to do, but you have nothing to ground it on, and then you become disillusioned. And not only will you, the problem is, and this is what I've noticed, when people get disillusioned with the obedient movement, they go against the movement with all the strength they can muster. I don't know if you've noticed it, because that's what they're trying to make up for the time they spent in the dark. They hate the movement, they go against it, they curse them, and the reason is because they suddenly discover that men moti gogon, which is okay. All of us go through such phases. I'm just saying that don't spend too much time there, and don't get yourself into trouble before you discover that the road that leads home is not that far away from where you are at the moment. Thank you very much for listening to that. We're going to have some people respond, and then we'll call it a day. We have the sessions every weekday, by the way, 4 p.m. if you're time West African time, so join us tomorrow. I'll bring some people up. Babati says, I saw a number of people earlier, I can't see them anymore. Babati says, how did they keep this trait for this long? Exact modus. How do they keep it? Yeah, it's like a faith or religious thing. You teach your children, you tell them stuff, the same rhetoric, the same narrative.
Okay, so thank you so much.
Hello?
I
don't even think this person was trying to actually come up. I think it was a mistake. The same rhetoric, the same narrative, you keep repeating it, and if you notice, if we really go into, if we have time, some other time, even if you don't have the issues, you're going to create the narrative to fit that. Sorry, you're going to repeat the narrative in order to fit into the issue, and then it gives people that same reaction. It's a natural thing. If I say some things, for instance, the letter we read from Obi earlier, he kept talking about what he did, what they were doing to him. It's a strategy that has worked. It doesn't have to have anything to do with what he's saying. And if you were here when we read that statement, it had absolutely nothing to do with his present reality. How do I know? Even because of the way he wrote it. He wrote it as a way to soften the ground before he now says exactly what he had on his mind, which was that he was leaving the party. And he didn't even say he was leaving the party. He said, I have left the party not because David Mark was like this or Atiku was like this. He didn't even tell him that I hereby leave. So he has to come through that. And the reason I've said several times, the reason is because victimhood sells in the Southeast. And again, Some of these things, sometimes they can sound a bit off, but it's not an insult. It's a strategy that has worked, right? At least okay, juice in the 1940s that is recorded, that you can actually find records of victimhood being used as a strategy, to the point where even the government recorded it as early as January of 1947. They actually wrote it down, what they were always were the victims. You see it in Azikwe's speech of 1949. It's a strategy that has worked, but people get tired after a while. That's the thing. So you have to be very creative. If you're always a victim, after a while, the people will get tired and say, you know what, I don't care. And at that point, you will now say that they are bad people, they don't like you. But at that point, it's not about like or not. They're just fed up. You know how you can't stand negative energy? I don't know about you. Me, for instance, after a while, I'll just move back. If I come talk to you, for instance, and every time we are talking on the phone or we're having a conversation, it's always what's wrong. Economy is a budget. It may be the reality, but like coming around you just get people depressed. After a while, someone like me will just tell you, we'll see. We'll just be seeing. We'll see, Sha, at some point, but it's very difficult to sit down with you because after good morning, good evening, how are you as everybody? The next thing is, then go to, last year, the person will never give you ideas of how to build anything. They will not tell you any good news of what they've achieved. They're always there to tell you about what somebody is doing to them. That's depressing. Anybody that wants to create something in life or wants to make progress, after a while, you begin to move away from such people because that energy is terrible. And that's what happens with all this victimhood thing. It works for a while. It's going to work, right? It works. But after a while, people will be like, I don't want negative energy. And that happens as well. Let's read some comments here on YouTube before we close. White Kubo says it was the same Union Jack that they hate with all their heart that delivered them from certain slavery. Wow. That's profound. You know, I was somewhere there today. They're talking about, slavery and stuff. And someone also talk about, how Europeans believe that whites were jumping over trees. And yes, it's true that, Europeans believe that a lot of black people in Africa were jumping on trees, or hopping trees and all. Or is it tree hopping? And we like to say it's not true. It's true in some cases. So yeah, the colonizers did terrible things, but in some cases, let's not go deep. We get the point. All right, let's go on. White Kubo says, so it was Azikwe who started the Oli Kanu Savior philosophy. Let me read something to you from Original Zikism. We are done, but I think it's good to read this. This was written by Wafo Rizu, just to buttress the point you made. He says, among the character traits of Nnamdi Azikiwe is his messianic complex. He moves and lives in a world of vision and mission. He cannot talk or act without an appeal to his reason deter. He is stubborn and tenacious and loves physical combat and so on and so forth. He is intellectually proud and often intolerant of other people's views, especially those that contradict in his view the destiny of the new Africa he believes must come. I have mentioned that there is a kind of cruelty in his character. He is also somewhat ruthless. He has a complex of inflexible inner ego. You know what? I don't want to read it everything because it's going to look as if I'm trying to. I didn't write this book, by the way. I'm just reading what he says here. The point I'm trying to make here is this. I'm stopping for one particular reason. It's everything that is very cool. Much of it is like a scathing critique of Zik. Let's just leave it alone. The point I'm trying to make is that only thing started with Zik. You are right. Let's just say it that way. Nicholas Ryan on TikTok says our founding fathers were all tribalists. Define tribalist. If you don't mind, please define tribalist. I would love to hear you say, explain. Jake's man says, is it true, Prof? I heard that Obi was very good at high jump during his youth. Reason for jumping parties? Maybe. Mr. Sunday, good morning to you. A different part of the world. Good morning. This one is just insulting everybody, insulting your Bible. I can't read all these insults. How many will I read? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't you have job? I read it. Ebuni, Ebu Ekpe, Otasi Yoba, Pufulani, Puafonja. For instance, you know that this one, they just leave it because the person said it's not functioning properly. Say Afonja was a deity in Yoruba. How was Afonja a deity in Yoruba land to your long? It just come from time and just nuisance. Anyway, I think the end of everything, Sha, is that people should be careful what they associate with and to also learn from what has happened in the past. This passion you have is good. There's nothing wrong with wanting a good Nigeria. But Peter Obi is not going to make it happen. In fact, he won't even have the chance to make it happen. Do I hate him? No. I love Nigeria too much to allow to think of someone like Peter Obi. A person that has jumped how many parties in the last few years and said he would jump 20 times if he has to. Because he needs to change Nigeria. It's the Messiah that we're looking for. A joke. How much has it changed in Anambra State? We have images here, we have tweets here of people talking about what he did as governor. And I've not, there was something I was going to read earlier. Oh boy, I just remembered now. I've not found anything that actually, was flattering. I was going to read something. I was going to read, oh dear, let it show. Maybe another time. Well, let me advise if you can find it. There was a thread. Well, it's an article, right? But it was broken down into a thread on Twitter that Governor Soludo wrote in 2022. I was going to read it. I read it over the weekend. I was like, wow. Wow. If you can find it, it's on Twitter, it's on his page. But it's in 2022, so you have to, look for certain keywords. If I find you the keywords, I just tell you so you can go it yourself. The thing the man said, 2022, it's as though about saw tomorrow. Let me see if I can find you. I just tell you what to search for if you are interested. And he gave a very, very brilliant speech about Biafra last week. I just didn't play it here, but I hope people that need to see it have seen it. I can't find. I thought I saved it somewhere. Anyway, the point it was talking about, was in 2022. I saved it somewhere. I can't remember where it is. Even I need to remember the keyword. I didn't say. I think it's on that device. I'll check it later. Anyway, the point is, he wrote about what Igbos were doing, and how it was going to boomerang, and the kind of politics they were playing. It turns out the man knew what he was talking about. And I hope people learn not to repeat those errors going forward. Active says, I wish Igbo brought up a much better presidential candidate, but Obi is no match. I agree with you. Absolutely. And let me say this. Someone says Obi still has one more jump before 2027. It's not impossible though. But if he jumps again, he can't run for presidency. That's the issue. So he's trapped. If he jumps, he can't run again because there's a timetable for every party where you have to have your primaries, where you have to have your convention, and everybody has to, I think they have to finish in the next, like it's very short, time is short. Most of them have to do their own in April. So if some parties have not done, maybe everybody will do it in May. because the election is starting soon now. By this time next year, we already know the president. Abi? Yes, now. By this time next year, we already know the president of Nigeria. I mean, of course, it's going to be Tinubu by God's grace for a second time. So that means that everybody has to wrap up everything they're doing. Even if he wants to leave, I don't think he can leave anywhere. I don't think he can. Well, all the best to him, but everybody will be all right. Thanks for being part of today's session. If you'd like to support what we're doing, please use the bank details on the screen. Your support is highly appreciated. We have people help from time to time. We do have the sessions every weekday, Mondays to Fridays, and it takes a lot to do this. So your support does help a great deal. And to those who have given gifts, I saw a lot of gifts earlier. Thank you very much for your generosity. God bless you. Thank you. And our friends also have, liked. We have 170.1k likes on TikTok, and that's really brilliant. Thank you. All right. No, I didn't hear. I was using another device. Oh, okay. So thank you very much for your support. Mon Parfait on YouTube says, plot twist. Kwakwanso is the Patotomi of 2026. Peter Obi deputizing for Atiku has more leverage than him going solo. He's heading for the same outcome. That's the plan. That's the plan. He's supposed to have the same outcome. Not with Lagos, Shai. He's not going to win Lagos this time. But he will definitely lose. I think it's appreciated. We love him for that. Anyway, it's been nice hanging out with you today. We'll be at 4 p.m. if your time West African time tomorrow. We'll be revisiting a conversation we had about Igbos and Ife. Somebody asked me a question. I actually did it last week though. The question, excuse me. Okay. The question was about the Igbos, the Igbo Ugbo in Ife, and certain claims that some people have made. I don't like going deep into it, but if you listen to the live session we did on Thursday, you have the answers you're looking for. There's something I need to do before we go. Let me just do it, please. There's something I need to do. It's going to take me not too long. So that stuff, the answer is already in that video. I just thought I should say it in case the person is watching. About the relationship between them and all that. One of these days we'll have another session to discuss. But I just want to play one thing and say something on a particular matter. Katolo, we're almost done. By the way, good news. Gateway International Airport gets approved for scheduled commercial flight. That's the new airport that was opened in Ogun State. It was conceived in 2019 and built from ground up by Governor Dapo Abiodun. It has the longest runway in Nigeria and West Africa. It's a strategic facility for both passenger and cargo operations with a primary focus on agro cargo. Conceptualized as an aerotropolis, an integrated development that merges an airport with industrial parks, residential areas, and business districts. The airport is projected to provide employment opportunities for around 25,000 unemployed youth in the state, according to Nairametrics. The airport will now serve as the alternate airport to Murtala Mohammed International Airport. Before its construction, if any aircraft cannot land at MMIA, the flight is redirected to Accra Airport. The Gateway International Airport ends that dilemma. It also aims to boost Ogun State and Nigeria's economic development by facilitating trade development. By facilitating trade, investment, and job creation. The airport is designed to handle commercial cargo and passenger traffic with the goal of decongesting other major airports like Murtala Mohammed International airport. That's from Man of Letters. That's quite nice. And I actually have a video. That's not what I want to say. There's another video I want to play, but there's something I think you should listen to. The governor, that's Governor Abiodun, as he prayed for the first set of passengers to board the international flight from the Gateway International Airport in Ogun State, and they were on their way to perform Hajj in Saudi Arabia. Take a listen to this.
That have been airlifted from Gateway International Airport direct to Saudi Arabia. Pilgrims that have been airlifted from Gateway International Airport.
1 second, please. 1 second, please. Just give me a second. Just give me a second.
Pilgrims that have been airlifted from Gateway International Airport direct to Saudi Arabia. Not only are you the first set of pilgrims that are going from Gateway Airport to Saudi, you are the first set of passengers that are traveling international from this airport. And you are boarding the largest aircraft that has ever landed at this airport. Ẹkú adúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Ọlọ́run. Salwa Nabi Karim, Salwa Nabi Mustafa, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ọlọ́run tó bá mú gbogbo àdúrà yìí lọ sílé àṣẹ tí ó fi ní àǹfààní láti ṣe hajj ọdún yìí. Ọlọ́run náà jẹ́ kí bàálù yìí á gbéra láyọ̀, á fò láyọ̀, á gúnlẹ̀ láyọ̀. Ọlọ́run á mú gbogbo àdúrà tó máa ṣe ní hajj náà á mú lọ sílé àṣẹ.
Active says, shit, this pilgrimage thing is officially. I mean, it's one of the pillars of their religion. I don't want to talk about pilgrimage right now. I just want to talk about the fact that they're flying using that airport, and it's quite nice. Now, what I really want to speak on very quickly is a statement. It's been all over the place in the past few days. I've been tagged, and I was going to talk about it earlier, but I think I should say something about it, just because it's important I should do so. Please take a listen to this, and then I'll tell you what I think.
Let me tell you something. Even now, as blessed as you may think me to be, my priorities will shock you. This might be a good opportunity to let you know. The suits I change all the time, I don't buy most of them. Oh. In case you didn't know. In case you didn't know. And I know I'm saying, no wound yourself. I don't buy most of them. I don't buy most. This one was a gift. Splendor. Listen, wait. Let me explain it. There's a reason. Oh my God. It's important. Please. Recognize where you are. Be happy in Christ. Joseph, without all the embellishment, was a prosperous man. It is first in my heart, my spirit, my spirit, my spirit, my spirit, my spirit. Are you getting what I'm saying? And this is where I usually don't like to preach about tribes, but this is where I really appreciate and respect the Igbo culture. You see an Igbo man, listen, t-shirts, short knicker, but he has containers on the high sea, no fancy dressing, half shoe now, and the shoe looking up to God. From whence comes for men. Check his bank accounts. You see, these are the things we can learn from each other. There's a lot to learn from each other. If you grew up in a tribe where you party what happened? The bullet touched you. I didn't say anything now. I'll never forget. I went to a park to take a delivery that was sent by boss. This was years ago. And I drove there in my car and they were delaying me. I wasn't happy. And I don't really want to lose my cool. They were actually at fault, but it taught me something because I had to challenge one man that was there. short knicker, tattered clothes. He was even packing things himself. I said, you people listen to me, something. What are you doing? Why you? I can't remember what I said. He said, my brother, calm down. I'll buy your car. Calm down. And so I calmed down and sat in my car and waited, because he said it with conviction. I knew when people are bragging, I know. When people have it, I know. He said, calm down. We are trying. No, don't judge me by this. What a life. What a life. I think it was months ago I told you. Warren Buffett, one day, his children bought Forbes magazine and opened it and saw richest man, Warren Buffett, second richest man. They laughed. They didn't know. They came and said, Daddy, they said the second richest man. Because it was the same house he bought when he got married. He was still living with his adult children. He was still living in with his adult children. That's how I know you are strong. When you don't do things to inconvenience your boss, to impress people who don't even care about you. My identity is in Christ. Thank God for my job. My job is just a vehicle. My worth comes from Christ. Come on, are you listening to me?
So a number of people sent me the video, and I'll just say that I think the pastor was trying to teach the importance of frugality. You can celebrate the Igbo culture without having to denigrate Yoruba people. We are not the whites of Nigeria that can just take anything. And it's ridiculous. People do this thing, and a lot of pastors do it. I'm a Christian, I'm a minister. I think it's beautiful to give examples and teach people, but there's something wrong. When people are so culturally unaware, and you notice that none of them in their life, with all these examples that they give, ever say anything wrong with other ethnic groups. I've not heard it. In all their lives preaching, I've not heard it. That a minister who is always talking will say something bad about the Igbo. No. They have to pander. But you have to, by the way, this thing about Owambe, for the person who is doing Owambe, is because he has the money to do it now. Okay, all these subtle jabs, like, oh, this person is wearing singlet, but is a billionaire. You are in a culture that has Owambe. And you say, oh, did the bullet touch you? The truth is, I get the point he was trying to make, and I get the people who also send me the message like, oh, he's always talking about partying. The thing is, number one, of course, everything has to be done with moderation, or in moderation. I don't even believe in just partying without, caution. But I think the real issue, let me tell you the real issue, it's not even about what he really said about people that are doing party. It's that people don't think that they can talk about something good about one group without finding fault with another, particularly Yoruba people. It doesn't make sense. I don't care who is saying it. It doesn't make sense. Like you can praise whichever group you want to praise without feeling the need to denigrate Yoruba people. And we are the ones that are always denigrating because they feel like, what are you going to do about it? For the most part, just look and pass. That's how one came the other day and said, Yoruba people, I want to tell you that you must be bold. The Igbos are, I'm like, what kind of rubbish is this? That's not what they're following. I said they are bold, they are courageous, but Yoruba people, they were telling you, when they tell you they're not telling you to be a coward. They're telling you to be careful. The one that you are saying that's doing jag, but that's just going everywhere, that's not bravery, that's recklessness. There's a thin line between bravery and recklessness. And when they're telling you to be careful and you think it means cowardice, it's because you probably haven't really understood what they're trying to tell you. Dear doesn't mean you should not do anything. It tells you that you should plan. You don't be doing zobu. And this is the issue. People assume that if you have to talk about, we're not twins in this country. Our cultures are different. Are there things we can learn from each other? Absolutely. And by the way, the party you look at, that party is someone's money. There are vendors working. There's an event manager doing that. There are different people making money from the party that you see. And of course, you should also do things in moderation. But this, for me, I think the real issue is just this thing where you want to talk about something good in one group that you will never condemn, by the way, and you can never see anybody condemn that group because For some reason, you just feel like, and by the way, if you cannot, here's the thing, by the way, I don't even, if you criticize Yoruba people, right, and just talk about it, you have a right to, because there's no perfect culture anywhere. But this comparison is what irks me. It's as though you cannot even have a conversation about one group without belittling the other. It makes no sense. And it's lazy thinking. Okay? You should be able to, if you want to talk about the greatness of one, talk about it and just celebrate, and that's okay. That's one. Number two, how come you cannot use the other group for anything negative? Number three, do you know if people can throw, and this is to the Yoruba people that sent me the video, people can throw shots at you and just say things, as disrespectful as it can be, it also shows that you have the capacity to take praise and take criticisms. So this is the Yoruba people who sent me the video. Some people criticize you, some people praise you. You have to be able to take both. Number four, if people only praise you and you never heard any kind of criticism, even if it's not something very cool, like everybody's always trying to pander towards you, there's only two reasons. Number one, the person is a sycophant. Number two, you are not a very, very well put together person. In other words, you're like a special needs kind of child. With all due respect to special needs kids, where you can't do anything wrong. It's not because you're a sensible person, it just means that you have a problem, that they're trying to manage you. For the most part, they're trying to manage some people. So you have to be telling them, oh, you are good, you are very wise. You can't even shout at the child, because, not at the special need, at the person. You can't even shout at the person because, so you're always trying to manage and just saying, you're wonderful, you're wonderful. If in the house, if you're raising your kid, you can't be saying you're wonderful. There's sometimes you have it's part of raising the child that's rising properly. Okay? So I think it's important for us to, so for us Yoruba people that have felt offended and sent me the video, people criticize you, it's part of it. Okay? It's normal. They will praise you as well. It's good. However, the idea where people have to always compare Yoruba with another group in order to praise the other group is nonsense. It's nonsensical. It makes no sense because you don't have to. You don't have to denigrate one group. Then the other thing also is that it has a way of destroying the image of the Yoruba person. If everything you are saying about us is to criticize us at the expense of another group, and if you're a minister, and if you're a speaker, you've got to know how you are destroying people's self-esteem. And that's what Awo was saying in the book in 1960, that Azikiwe's goal was to corrode the self-respect of Yoruba people. How do you corrode the self-respect of Yoruba people? One of the things he did, number one, if they did anything great, he will not talk about it. You have to force him to put it in his papers and put it at the back. Hide it somewhere. Number two, if anybody from Yoruba land did anything wrong, he will put it in the front of the paper. And his papers were the most popular at the time. He will report it. If Igbos did anything wrong, he will not report it. If other people that were not Yoruba, other groups did something wrong, he will report the evil they did, but the crime they committed. He will report the crime they committed, and he will write the ethnicity in front of their names, so that you not confuse them for Igbos. So if you're a Yoruba person, every time you buy a newspaper and you see reportage about crimes, you're always seeing things about what your people did, and you don't see what Igbos did. Over time, you begin to feel like maybe we have a problem. What you don't know is that the owner of the paper, who is a very influential person, has chosen not to report the crimes of his ethnicity, but to, what's the word now? Not only just report your own issue, but to make it as loud as possible. That's an attempt to corrode the self-respect of the people. And churches have to understand this. Yoruba people are not the butt of your jokes. And we don't really need people to, teach us anything if they don't know how to communicate it without being, what's the word now? Disrespectful. And if you're a Yoruba person, I see Yoruba people also say these things as well. Sorry, that's what I was looking for. It will amplify your evil, but then it will find a way not to talk about his own. Thank you for supplying the word, but it came late. Anyway, for Yoruba people also, who you feel that you have to demean yourself in order to make a point and make people feel like you're a Nigerian, it makes no sense. Self-deprecation does not work when you're not working with your peers. Most of the people in Nigeria are not your peers. I mean, certain people in Nigeria are not your peers, culturally. Okay? People think in a very funny way. We tell some people that we are all from Ife. Now everybody say, oh, great, so we are from the same place. Awesome. You tell another group that we are all from Ife, they tell you that they were there before you. Therefore, they own the place, and it's not your own. There's a group in this, in fact, there's some groups, not even one. I know a number of groups that I've heard them say that they did something, they changed themselves to Ife, that definitely they are coming from amongst Yoruba people. And they've even written books about it. I don't like talking about it because I like it to be their own, that's all respect, is they are the ones saying it. So if I tell those people that, oh, you're from Ife, yes, of course, we're all from Ife. There are some other groups, once you mention, we're all from the same place, you hear things like, oh, now we even own the place where you get before. The person is not culturally aware. They've not evolved to the point of understanding the fact that you're building, a close-knit family or whatever. Their own goal is to just dominate and move around like crazy people. So deprecating yourself in that part of culture is not very smart. So all the best to the pastors, but I think pastors need to begin to understand that Nigeria is not a place where you can be using Yoruba people to be tiny, just be saying they will understand. I'm just trying to teach them. I say, don't teach us anything. If you want to teach us something, use the Bible. If something is wrong with the culture, and there's no perfect culture, like I said, if you see something wrong with the Bible and you want to correct it, that's fine. But if you're going to correct it, what you do is use the scriptures. Don't use another group. Especially when we know that culturally speaking, that group cannot leave the shoes, cannot even fix the latch on Yoruba shoes. I mean, I think at this point, people have to really begin to understand. And pastors and Christians also have to understand cultural awareness. It's important. We are not at the time to call I'm just trying to use the Bible. If you want to use the Bible to teach people something. Are there things that can be fixed in any culture? Of course. Use the Bible. Don't use another culture. The person who is wearing singlet and saying that he has billions of that, do you know how he got his money? Did you not see all those pictures of people carrying stuff? I saw one last week, 90-something years old. Drugs and everything. You see people moving things and all those things. So you say, I'm wearing singlet, You don't know where the money is coming from. Am I saying all of them are carrying drugs? Maybe not necessarily. Maybe not. I'm not saying everybody's carrying drugs, but the point is, it's a little leg me. The people who are holding parties, who are organizing parties, they borrow money from your people. They didn't borrow money from you. It's their money. They want to spend it. They should spend it. If you want to correct them using the scriptures, not using another group that you don't even understand how they came to be. You have people, for instance, who open shops and they can afford not to even make profit. There was a conversation about that in Ondo the other day. And so in Akure. I want to tell you Letaja. Oh, crash prices. They just crashed the price. He could afford to do it because he doesn't need the money. Laundry, for Shombe, just to wash. People should understand. Nobody is saying everybody is doing bad things. Of course, there are good people everywhere, there are bad people everywhere. But we've got to be very careful. Say, oh, look at this person is doing something. Now use the person as an example. Even as a Christian, you can't do that. You buy Nico Mawagalago, oh, was singlet, Kiwalo come, Kulash, over one tenny. Oh, Wukuma was Shoni. Oh, was Salobata to Benes, okay. Oh, Wuko. Oh, come on, no. You know, you can make money and you're not going to spend all that money. That's a curse now. Enjoy your money. And if there's something that you're not doing right when it comes to spending money lavishly, you to balance it. But ministers, particularly in Nigeria, have got to be very, very culturally aware. Yoruba land, this is not the time when we're saying, I just want to teach them something. Comparing rubbish, it's not going to work. And I know that for some of them, it's an honest mistake. They're just used to doing it. For Nigeria, and you notice most of them, Yoruba no finish a lot of jokes. They don't use these other groups. Are you telling me that you don't say anything that you can correct in them? Maybe you should be finding time to be correcting them. By the way, you can correct anybody. Just use the scriptures, use the Bible. Stop comparing ethnicities. There's no basis for that, even in scriptures. It makes no sense. All right. And now your Bible will send me the video. Please calm down. People will insult you. They will also thank you, praise you. it comes with the territory. You should be able to take it. Prof says it's on sound logic. Are the Yorubas poor because of parties? I think his own idea is that somebody is appearing poor, but he has a lot of money. But you are having parties. The fact I'm having parties, does that mean I'm poor? And the person who had the party, does that mean, did he collect money from you? And the clothes he wore, did they come to you? The person who sold the clothes, is that not business? The person who sold the car, who organize events, who do event management, are they not doing business? There's a lot of money exchanging hands. The souvenirs you see, Yoruba people do, but boy, there's no party like a Yoruba party. Jesus is Lord. People do crazy things. Come back, Baro. You see some souvenirs, you think that like people are invested in this kind of, the way they do souvenirs these days, like people go all out. Of course, there are extravagant things that people can do sometimes, and it's important to also say, okay, you know what, let's not go to the extreme. But you can't. I mean, we have kids. You know, you don't use one child. It doesn't even make sense at an ethnic level, especially when and I don't like talking about history of groups in Nigeria. If you look at the history of groups, there is no basis for comparison at all. No basis. It is well. So what's a bot of? So bot is B-U-T-T. At this point, I'm going to have to read the meaning to you because I have to. I've used my quota of mental dictionary. Let me look for the meaning. It's B-U-T-T. It just means that it's essentially saying that you should not be the. You don't want to. No, not bottom. The idea basically is that the joke is not cracked at your expense, something like that. So you're not a person. Okay, to be the butt of a joke means that you are the primary target of ridicule, teasing, or mockery. Okay, so you're like becoming a laughing stock, right? So like people are laughing at your expense. Like your people cannot be the butt of people's jokes. Not bottom or B-U-T-T of jokes. Anyway, so I hope people shall get the point. And there's a balance with these things. Like I said, to be honest, there is no culture that is perfect. Even Yoruba culture, everybody is growing. Culture is dynamic. You have to evolve. But don't attempt to be using other groups saying, okay, you can't singlet, therefore you are having party. Kilo Fijora. And if you are going to even talk to me about what I'm doing wrong, you're a pastor, use scriptures, explain, and guide. And there's nothing wrong with that. And the funny thing is that the ones you're using as the model, you don't even understand what's going on. You don't know how they got their money. You don't know what they're doing with their money. And if the person decides to have a billionaire and be wearing singlet, I don't know why you have money, I can't enjoy it. Anyway, everybody will be all right. No extravagance, but let's have wisdom and cultural awareness. Most Nigerians lack, and the funny thing is this, I don't think they lack cultural awareness, to be honest, because when they're talking about the other groups, they know exactly how not to talk. When you talk about you, but you just feel like we are not the whites of Nigeria that, say, oh, we didn't colonize anybody and we don't owe anybody anything in this country. So there's nothing like, can you say anything and you understand. What you don't get. May God bless everybody in Nigeria. May God bless Yoruba people. May God bless every ethnicity. And may God bless Nigeria. All right. Having said that, we're going to close now. Thanks for being part of today's session. And we'll be here at 4 p.m. if we're time West African time tomorrow. But before we go, we're going to listen to our anthems. It's the Nigerian anthem and the Yoruba anthem. Here is the Nigerian anthem.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ,
Àwọn ni mọ́lẹ̀ ògùn adúláwọ̀ ìmọ́lẹ̀ wọ̀ ní wọ́kùn lágbára Ọlọ́run. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ò ní bàjẹ́, Nàìjíríà náà ò ní bàjẹ́, ilé wa ọ̀nà wọ̀ ò ní bàjẹ́, ilé onílé wa ọ̀nà ní náà wà ó. Everything we do will prosper in Jesus' name. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. May God bless you. May God bless our country, Nigeria. May God bless our nation, Yoruba land. May God bless everything connected to us. Thanks for being here. I'll see you again tomorrow at 4 p.m. If at time, West African time. I'm going to have a good time together. See you then. Have a lovely evening. Udaro.